Good evening and welcome to ELOSOFUMARTAKES. This is our 262nd take live from the Alec Bradley Lone Star studio of Azle, Texas. I'm your host, Barry Duplessis, as always, and I'm so proud, so pleased, and so privileged to be with you all tonight. It's going to be a fantastic show. The team is back. Yes, we are hosting the first ever annual, officially, unofficial, half Appalachian Mountain Cigar Fest podcast episode right here on ELOSOFUMARTAKES. It's going to be a huge blast. I've got some esteemed guests lined up for you guys tonight, and we'll get to formal introductions in a second. We get to thank the people that make this show possible, and that, of course, is our sponsors. Tonight's show is sponsored by Drew Estate. Drew Estate's done it again. Yes, the Papas Fritas is back in the all-new H99 Liga Privada H99 blend. Yes, the Papas Fritas, the iconic size that has taking Liga Privada to a new heights, is now available in the H99 blend by Drew Estate. So check out your Drew Diplomat retailer today. Grab a H99 Papas Fritas. Yes, and welcome everybody. This is our 262nd take live, as I mentioned, from the Alec Bradley Lone Star studio of Azle, Texas. But without further ado, I'd like to welcome tonight's guests, sponsored by United Cigars. Smoke one today and start living United. Mr. William Cooper, Erron Nielsen, Ben Lee. Gentlemen, how are we doing tonight?
I forgot my tablecloth.
You forgot your tablecloth.
You forgot your tablecloth.
I forgot my tablecloth. I think I'm throwing it out of the Cigar Fest, right? Because being an exhibitor at a Cigar Fest, you got to have a tablecloth.
A black tablecloth.
How do you? Yeah, but no, you also it's also where your stacks of boxes, man. Where's all your swag? Where's everything else? Oh, you're rocking the shirt. Yeah, I guess.
I'm rocking my shirt. I'm rocking my shirt today. Yeah, it's
okay.
Yeah. I actually wanted a different scene in Tampa, but we'll go with Tampa in honor of our friend Arnold. So he's a good man. So Tampa's a good area. He had a big event this week, so
he was actually featured on the local news too, which was pretty cool.
I love that guy. Yeah, we'll talk about him later. I know on this episode. Yeah.
So good stuff. I really want to kick off everything too. Again, I want to break down this. This is the officially unofficial half Appalachian Mountain Cigar Fest podcast episode, as I mentioned before. So half of our team is near or around the Appalachian Mountains. That's where you get the half. It's officially unofficial because there is no Appalachian Mountain Cigar Fest, and this is a podcast episode. So there you have it. A long explanation to a funny joke. Anyway, I'm really excited to have you guys back on and to talk a little bit of some of our experiences post PCA trade show and some other experiences as well. But I thought we'd kick things off with an interesting question. This is a question that Coop was really excited for the whole evening about. So we're just going to get it out of the way right now and then get to kicking off everything is like how we normally kick off these shows. But so what is outside of cigars? Okay, outside of cigars, what is the biggest obsession of this industry? The premium cigar industry.
Besides gossip?
Besides cigars, what is the biggest obsession inside of our industry?
Yeah, I got a question on this question. And hello, everybody. Good to see you guys. Dialed as always. Does this have to be something tangible, meaning physical as an obsession, or it can be just...
It's up to interpretation. I like where you're going. I like where you're taking this question already. So yeah, go for it, man. No, it doesn't have to be something tangible.
Well, I think I heard Ben mention it, but it was kind of top of mind. I think what the industry obsesses about is, I don't want to call it inner office politics, but we'll call it gossip.
Yeah.
They freaking, that's something that I was privy to, I guess, kind of in my first PCA event, getting to, kind of a look behind the curtains of what actually went on behind the scenes and what goes on in the industry. And I cannot believe the rumors, gossip, the talking about this person or what's going on over here. Did you hear this? I mean, it's incessant. I mean, it is unbelievable, the amount that goes back and forth, and the questions that you guys get probably more than I do. But hey, it's hey, have you heard about this? Or hey, what's going on over there? Or did you hear this? Or what's this person up to? Or did you hear this person's going here? It's the constant just talk and water cooler talk that goes on in the industry. So that's my answer.
Aaron, and the pettiness.
Yeah.
And I say this with sincerity this year. There was so much pettiness that this team got from people in the industry this year, directed at members of this team. And it was the gossip is one thing, but the pettiness, which I think is an offshoot of a lot of this gossip, was terrible. And I have to get that off my chest right now, because there were comments made to people on this team, myself and others, that were just like really unprofessional and complaining about like this or that about the show or whatever, or not getting mentioned on a list or something. And I'm tired of it. So I'm getting that off my chest about that. But that wasn't my answer. But
Yeah, I was gonna say, man, I thought you had something else in line, but I liked where Aaron was going with this. This tangible.
I do too. Yeah.
I feel like my answer's so much less fun now.
Yep.
You guys are kicking things off, bringing in the heat. This is kind of nice. So
Yeah, I just sometimes I'm unfiltered, good, bad, or indifferent. I mean, it's just what from my point of view, and I'm again, as we've talked about before, different in a sense than you guys as far as how long you've been in the industry, and you guys are way more connected than I am and have way more conversations behind the scenes. But for the times that I'm in those environments or around people, whether it's at an event or even a larger event like the PCA, I mean, look, we're guilty of it too. Look, I'm not trying to throw stones at the glass house. We talk to each other about, hey, did you hear this is going on, or so-and-so's going here, industry news or whatever. But I mean,
this is the business we've chosen. Sorry, I had to throw the Godfather quote in there, man. That's our business, Aaron. That's our business. I think that's a little bit different. I like you said, I like the fact that you own it and that we own it, because, you can't just say like, oh yeah, everyone's gossipy and like, we're so above it. We're not. Like, we do it too, like you said. So didn't mean to cut you off, but I wanted to throw I wanted to throw the Godfather quote in there because
it is the business we chose, but it is top of mind of where I think that the industry obsesses about, or is to your question. So that's kind of where I went with it.
Yeah, no, I like it, man. I like it. Good, man. Way to bring the heat already. This is fantastic. All right, Coop. Well, I know you were dying to do it, so man, I was going to kick these off, but Aaron went full speed ahead. So
yeah, I had to get my little jig in on that, right? My answer is I was going to say airplane photos. I'm not. I mean, I don't want to say this applies to everybody in the cigar industry, but it's alcohol, man. Everything just seems to resolve around alcohol. That's what this industry, right? Whether everyone's at Bar Luca, whether half the industry's taking an afternoon off to go on a brewery tour in Colorado, right? Well, it just seems like this industry needs alcohol, and I don't understand it. It's just they go a little too far with it. I think sometimes.
Yeah, but don't you think? So I have a question on that, Coop. So you and we're all in the business world outside of what we do here,
right?
And it's fun. I mean, I was just at an event not that long ago, and people could not wait for the meetings to get done so they could get to the bar, or it's the late nights of the bar. It's the what I call CLMs, the career limiting moves.
Yeah,
people do, and it's all centered around alcohol. So I don't disagree with you, but I think that's kind of prevalent in
that's a fact. I mean, I guess sometimes I look at I see certain podcasts done, and sometimes the podcast is judged based on how much the guest drank. And I don't like that. I don't think that's really the answer. I think sometimes it goes a little further. But in this industry, there's no CLMs, it seems like, if you're at the bar, unless you really do something bad, right?
Right.
Yeah, I mean, I think so. I think there's merit behind that too.
You want me to say airplane? I could say airplane photos.
No, I said
because they are obsessed with it. Yeah.
Like I said, my answer is a little uninteresting. It kind of goes right with a hand in hand with a couple of things we talked about. So I had a combo answer a little bit, but I'll wait. I'll kind of wait for it. So Ben, you've been quiet so far, man. What you got, buddy?
I mean, industry bullshit is definitely the main one, but I'm going to do something a little bit that's just more for me that I've noticed that y'all probably haven't. Because I'm kind of in that world as well. and it's a little bit different than something negative. But honestly, it's fragrances like colognes and perfumes or whatever, because I'm kind of in that world as well, and several
Right.
people know it. But I can't tell you how many people have stopped me at PCA like, "Hey man, what are you wearing?" Or, "Oh, I got this new thing today." Or, "Have you had this? Can you tell me about it?" It's like nonstop. But it's crazy when I hear about it. It's like people have these big collections just like they would have a bunch of cigars. It amazes me honestly how many people collect that as they do cigars, and it's a ton of people. It's way more than you would ever imagine. Kind of like the ratio of what it should be compared to, like standard society. It's like way skewed. So I was really surprised about that.
Well, the other one too, on that line, Ben, where were we? We were at what event was at the event out that bar we stopped in outside of Caesars? Somebody had a bourbon collection. We had this, the whiskey and the bourbon collections. I think that it goes along what Coop was talking about.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of people into like that bourbon, whiskey, Scotch, kind of collecting in the industry as well, the brown liquor.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that kind of makes sense though, because a lot of people, like to pair something with their cigar, right? I mean,
Right.
there's tons of review sites, blogs, whatever you want to call us nowadays, or anything. There's a lot of them that do pairing.
Yeah.
I mean, like our good friend, Thor and Dan with Cigar Press, they have a whole column that pairs beer with cigars. So that kind of goes hand in hand, which I consider that a little bit separate from what Coop's saying. Coop's thing is like an obsessive disorder kind of a thing.
Yeah.
But like where I have a lot of bourbons and scotches and stuff, but I mean I rarely, I don't drink them that much. I'll have one or two with a cigar once a week maybe, right? But I got a bunch. But that is a good one, Aaron, because a lot of my friends, especially my rep friends, they have a huge bourbon room.
How about
room.
McTavish? How about McTavish's, dude? Remember that figure when he was going through his collection? Is insane.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I have a couple of friends that have dedicated bourbon rooms in their house.
Mm-hmm.
Just bourbon,
Oh.
wall to wall. So
This is crazy.
and they'll drive because they're reps. They're all over the place. So when they go visit accounts, they're hitting up these places that people know about that has this special bottle or bourbon from here or this rare scotch over here, and they'll hit those up just as much as they're doing their own accounts. Because I mean, why not? Because they're traveling, they're in these different areas. So that's another really good answer, Eric.
Thank you, Ben.
Great.
Yeah,
All
I
right,
was gonna lump bacon into this this one conversation because I was just gonna say meat in general.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a good one. That's actually, we do a segment on Thursday show every week about meat. Yeah.
I think I mean, to your point about pairings and stuff, it makes sense just because that's kind of been the standard going back for ages. I mean, before nerds like us came around and stuff and made a thing about it. Pairing people paired their cigar with whatever, going back over 150 years, 200 years and stuff. So
I don't think my Diet Dr. Pepper collection would really count. You can't really age that. So
it's true.
I can't-
Yeah, it doesn't. But
That's so
yeah,
gross.
but the meat thing, I never knew about your hatred for Dr. Pepper, Ben. I thought that was funny the other day.
I don't
Yeah,
talk
it is.
about it because that's a Texas no. We don't talk about it.
It's fine. We don't have to
It's like Fight Club.
we don't have to talk about it. It's good. But yeah, I think, and I'm not sure what it is, but it's like, man, like nothing satisfies like the premium cigar industry member like a friggin' fat old dead cow on a plate. Which, I mean, listen, like that's no judgment and no hate coming from me. I love me some red meat, and I'll destroy a burger any day, and you know, I'll eat a steak anytime, man. So like, yeah, it's just really funny how like, I mean, just yeah, the industry's just like obsessed with meat.
That's true. I mean, it's a lot of us post, us,
Grilling
smoking
steaks,
something,
barbecue, yeah,
you know.
man, for sure, yeah. Like,
Yep.
like
I listen. I mean, I have to admit, one of the finest memories I have of having a cigar is right after an exquisite steak dinner at New York Prime in Atlanta, and
Oh,
finishing
you can
finishing.
smoke there too.
It's exactly right. And
Yep.
so I went there after we was visiting Buckhead Cigars with the owner Mike, and we're sitting there, and Brian Hewitt, the used to review with me, a Stoker review, and we're sitting there, we're finished our steak, we're at the bar, and I remember I lit up a LFD factory press, and it was just fucking perfect. It was perfect. It was such a magical moment. It just matched well. Makes total sense too. Maybe it's everything it's sensory driven, maybe.
yeah, well, I think there's also like, it's like kind of like a pastime too. Like, I mean, again, if you're barbecuing, if you're smoking, I mean that's a hours long escape, and what else are you gonna do other than smoke cigars and watch sports or something like that, or in Coop's case, he's just waiting for dinner to be made, so he's in the garage smoking. So, but but I mean, like, I think that like there, especially when it comes to like barbecue stuff, I think the reason why a lot of people are drawn to the cigar industry, especially like content like this, are really into the craft aspect of it, the craftsmanship, the artisanship, right? And there is that in like barbecue and culinary, in culinary feats and stuff. So I think that's why it kind of goes hand in hand. The same thing could be said with like spirits and things. So I can understand that. So all right.
Yeah,
cool.
but you just described everything we just talked about, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
fragrances. You could even say
well,
even like
scotches and bourbons
firearms too. Like a lot of
Yes,
guys love
exactly.
to, a lot of guys like to pop off, So I mean that's knives. I know that's a big thing for you. My former general manager at Michael's, Tracy Spence, is huge into knives. So there's some cool stuff, man. Watches.
Oh yeah,
I'm
that's
just
another one, another good one.
Music, music to some extent too.
Yeah, there's a lot of
Yeah.
a lot of music lovers. So but yeah, so anyway, guys, I thought it would be an interesting kind of ice-breaking question to kick us off. So with another obsession in the cigar industry too, I just wanted, this one's for you, Coop. I'm gonna go ahead and crack open my my Topo Chico for the night. So
Yes,
it's because it's the greatest carbonated water in the history of
same
mankind.
shit as any other water.
100%.
Water is water. It's the same H2O.
It is not.
It's H2O.
Yeah, dude,
If you would take a basic chemistry class, you would know there's a massive difference in all these types of waters.
They put but they put happiness in this, dude. They put happiness down in Monterrey, Mexico, in the water down there.
You're not supposed to drink the water in Mexico.
After you filter it and carbonate it and make it into some magic like I am here. You've seen me drink enough of this shit, man. I don't get
I
sick
felt bad.
of it.
We couldn't find you any when we went to the supermarket that day in Vegas. We were trying to find. We really did try to find you some.
Yeah, it's always been hard in Vegas. I've never been able to find it readily.
Yeah, it was weird.
So, but on to another piece of business here. We're going to change things up. Okay, so this is actually going to take part in 2 questions here. Coop, we're going to kick things off with you. I have 2 groups of cigars. One of older stuff, stuff that was released prior to the trade show this year. And stuff that was released around the trade show-esque. I took liberty with a couple of them, but there's 4 cigars in both things. So you're gonna pick. Are you picking from the old school, or are you picking from the new? Or are we picking from the new school? So someone else is gonna pick my cigar. You're picking the group.
Let's pick the new school. Kind of going with the vibe of tonight.
Okay.
I normally would probably go with the old. I'd probably go with the old school, but let's go new school tonight.
Okay. Well, we'll have a chance to revisit the old school because I imagine I'll probably get through.
Yeah. You guys said normally I'm the old school guy, and that would be my answer. But I think in the spirit tonight, let's go new school.
Okay. Cool.
Yep.
All right. Nielsen, we're gonna let you pick the cigar tonight. So I've got
process of elimination.
I've got 4 cigars here that were released around the trade show. So this is one of the new sizes from the from Dunbarton Tobacco and Trust. This is the red. Speaking of meat, the Red Meat Lovers Club, the ribeye, which is a 6x52. I have the Quesada Oktoberfest, the 2023 edition. Okay. I have George Rico's El Enigma from Gran Habano Cigars.
Almost went with that tonight. Yeah.
And really, okay.
It almost did. Yeah.
Okay.
But
and
Aaron's picking, not me. Yeah.
And the Delay Turkiya, also known as Istanbul. So this is from Delay Cigars, made by Luciano's Mireles and everything, with the Turkish tobacco. So
George Rico.
George Rico, here we go.
Yep. So, and I'm interested to get. I mean, as you get through it, I'll maybe chime in. I'm interested to see what you think about that. So I'd like to get. Have you had it yet?
No,
Right.
I haven't.
I'm glad that was the pick. Actually, because Bear and I have a little history with that cigar. We knew about the project for a while, so
Yeah.
yeah. So I'm really curious. I think Bear was a perfect pick, actually.
Yeah. I'm
That
glad
wound
he
up,
picked-
yeah.
Glad he picked it. So
Yep.
but I smoked it either.
Because I haven't smoked it either, and I've been kind of waiting for the right time, and I almost did it tonight, but I wanted something a little milder. That's why I went with hot cake.
Yeah, I'm excited about all these cigars too. So it's not like
Yep.
I haven't had the Istanbul yet. I'm sure the Turkish tobacco may come up later, maybe not. But
Yep. It was different.
Yeah,
I mean,
it will. It'll come up later.
It'll come up later. Yep.
So let's start. We'll start with what everyone's spoken tonight. So Ben, what did you light up?
Okay, so I had a couple of things here, but I went ahead and decided to start off with the hot cake Laguito number 4 as well, since we seem to all kind of be doing that except for you right now. But also in the lineup, what I got is I got a Roma Craft Aquitaine Epic for later after
Nice.
that. And then also I have our good buddy Howard Gums. I got his Black Moses Habano Perfecto that I picked up
Habano?
at Corona Cigars. Yeah.
Nice.
I actually have never had this one. This is the only one I have. So I'm really looking forward to trying this one out. I've had a million Aquitaine, so we know about that one. So that actually the Black Moses will be following this one.
Nice. Cool. Aaron, what you got?
All right, I want a hot cake as well, in Toro. So kind of following the lines of everybody. I've also got, keeping in the lines of kind of coming off the PCA, I've got I don't know, I don't want to say it's controversial because of the list and everything, but the Oliva Milano that I got down at Casa de Monte Cristo in Nashville.
Bro, that's so good.
Yep, and then also the name I butcher all the time, La Madonna Negra.
Got it.
Yep.
Yeah, you're good. You got it.
From Mr. Brown. So those are the 3 I've got. If I need a 4th, and we're going way too late. So that's what I got so far.
That's a good lineup right there, man. Real good. Cooper, were you just doing the one?
Nope, I got the hot cake as well. This is actually not the Grand Canyon. I think it's the Guido number 5, so it's the Toro.
Yeah.
I think so. I don't think this is the Grand Canyon. It's a little thinner. And then I picked. It's not a new cigar, but it's a newer company that came to the show. I got the Houghton Young Operation Gothic Serpent 25th cigar. They came out the 30th this year.
So I saw that. Does anybody else think that band look a little bit like Caldwell?
Yes.
When I saw that band, I'm like, God, at first when I went to pick it up, it looks so much.
It reminds me of The King is Dead.
Yeah, or the King is Dead and the which one was it? Color of the band. Anyway, yes. At first I thought it was a Caldwell when I looked at it.
I did too. I mean, this has been out for a while, but this is I actually believe this is more coincidental than anything with this band.
I'm sure it is, but
Yeah,
it
I
just-
actually
Well,
think,
it's
but it does.
their logo, right?
It's
Yeah,
their
the
logo, yeah. That's why, and I think the way it just was laid out, if they had designed that primary band a little differently, no one would have a problem. But the fact it's kind of like that oval with the band going around it, yeah,
Those guys were awesome.
they were. I know we're going to be talking, but they were a revelation of the show for me.
All right. So with that in mind, let's go ahead and kick things off. So with our Cigar Fest here. So we're going to go ahead and get into tonight's major point, which is always brought to you by the people. Yes, cigar people, the people who know everything about a lifetime of service. Protocol Cigars is more than just pool parties and good times. Well, maybe it is. But behind the fun is a motivation for service, a motivation for giving back. From the original Protocol Blue to the latest release in the Lawman series, Phoebe Cousins, Protocol has always been about honor, passion, and yes, the people. It's what their life's work has been and always will be about. Power of the P, Protocol Cigars. So, gentlemen, I got together with a couple of things here. So I wanted to look at this in kind of in two parts. So in honor of, basically half the industry being up in Colorado this weekend, and my half joking title for this show, being the officially unofficial half Appalachian Cigar Fest podcast episode. Wanted to ask a question that I thought would be kind of interesting to kind of hear different people's perspectives and answers on it. So what is the best purely social cigar event or fest that you've attended? So this could be like Rocky Mountain Cigar Fest, Drew State Barn Smoker, Lazona Palooza, Cigar Fest, the old Chattanooga Tweet Up, which I'm so sad I never got to participate in one. I know you've been, Coop. But those kinds of things. So what's the best one that you've ever been to or attended?
All right, I'll go first. The original Chattanooga Tweet Up. I mean, it was amazing time.
I'm with Ben. Yeah, mine is the same answer, by the way.
Oh man.
Yeah,
God,
it was,
dude, I got a serious case of FOMO now that I never got to go.
it was very unique. I mean,
Yeah.
My original site, Cigar Review, was a major part of that, get that together as well. And I mean, we drove up from Biloxi, Mississippi to Chattanooga to go to that. And it was really cool how they had it set up too, where, you had different people in different rooms originally in the beginning.
Yeah.
And they kind of all just kind of came together and started, huddling in the main room or whatever. But it was really cool that where people could, for the first time, kind of just go. And it was kind of like a cigar event and stuff, but it had a laid back feel to where a lot of the principals that were there could easily talk to the consumer, and it wasn't like this mad crazy show where it was just so many people that they kind of had to back away and kind of be sectioned off so they could deal with it. It was more personal, and it was a really great fun time. It was really fun.
So
Yeah.
Ben, I used to work for a company that was headquartered in Chattanooga. Where did they have it?
Burns Tobacconist.
Oh, yeah. That's where I always went there. Where did they have it there, though? How did they separate it out?
So they could at the time, Burns Tobacconist had two locations, right?
Yeah,
They had the main one that had the pool hall,
Yeah,
right? And then they had the other one I think was downtown.
was.
So yeah, it's gone now. But the original, the festival originally it was at the main Burns Tobacconist, which was plenty big for everybody with the different rooms and stuff. Because at the time it was only kind of really done on Twitter, right? It was pre most social media. I mean, Facebook was in its infancy. A lot of people were using MySpace and shit at the time, but it was mainly all Twitter. It was a Twitter thing. So it was a good crowd, but it wasn't a massive crowd like you get nowadays, right? So they had it in the main Burns Tobacconist, and then they had dinner and kind of a small little smoking get together at the downtown location. So everybody drove down there, did some stuff, and it was pretty good. Problem down there was just like no parking.
Yeah.
So it's really hard to find a parking spot. And then you got done, you basically everybody went back to the main Burns location to go back to hang out with everybody. So it still worked out, So and I know like the previous year before they stopped doing it, it just kind of got bigger and bigger and bigger and more. It just got to be too much. So, but the first one was the best. It was so much fun. I had a great time.
Yeah, I agree with Ben on that. Eventually they did move the whole thing back to Burns East with the pool hall, and it really became almost like going to a cigar resort. Because what happened, you had Burns, it was connected to the pool hall, which had a restaurant in there at the time. And they were connected. Then there was an ownership issue, and that's really what killed the event, right? Is because the ownership of Burns and the pool hall separated. But we would stay over at like this Hampton Inn, which was like you could walk. You didn't have to even drive over, right? And we'd walk over, everyone would be out there, like 7:30 in the morning, a group would start gathering and smoking outside. There was like a patio outside and then it be like the following year, they actually started opening this thing up for breakfast so people can eat breakfast there in the morning, right? It was, they also had a pretty good structure. They'd give each manufacturer some time to have some exclusive time, where you can go into a room and they'll talk to you about their products and stuff like that. They also had humidor time, which I thought was really good. So they did a good job. And I'm telling you, they had all the names. I mean, most of the big names, Pete would be coming to this event. Just name the people. Fred Rui was there a lot. Paul Palmer even was there from Casa Fernandez one year. So
that's where you met the late Gabe Alvarez too, right?
That's where I met Gabe Alvarez. Yes, it was at the Chattanooga Tweet Up. I met Gabe, and he handed me a Coots cigar. It was a 2013 one. So I did meet him. I know I met Fred there for the first time too. So there was, remember Clint Aaron, when he was with 262, ironic 262s today, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, there was Caldwell would be there. Matt Booth was always there. All the House of Emilio people were there. The general people were showing up. The Miami cigar people were showing up. So it was a very, very big event. I think, like I said, the ownership thing killed the event, unfortunately, when that ownership thing happened. And I would love for them to someplace to resurrect that concept again, because it was a great event. And Ben said it did get bigger, unfortunately. And then the last couple of years got a little cliquish, where the manufacturers were kind of spending more time among themselves than with people. But otherwise, but it still was a fun event. Yeah.
Yeah. Something else I remember too about it was the manufacturers all brought something special,
right?
That you could buy.
Yeah.
It's something you couldn't get anywhere else, right? Like, yep. I remember the main thing I remember I really wanted that I got was the Liga Privada box. That was the Liga Privada A's and a little coffin and a dual coffin. That was something I got there, and I
brand new. That was the first place you could get it. Yeah.
Yeah. It was impossible to find, and they had it there. You could go there and you could buy it.
Yeah.
It was stuff like that. I mean, Pete bought something like that rare too. There was several. Miami Cigars had its stuff, and a lot of Aurora.
Espinosa brought the old original Habano and Corona. They had this coffin set with Corona sizes of those cigars. I mean, I still have the little coffin that they did with that. So they did that as well.
I spent a lot of times at that Burns one. I was there now 7 years ago.
Was it with the barber chairs?
Yeah, the barber.
Yeah, that's the one. That's the one we're talking about. Yeah.
Yeah, right. Well, and at that time, the ownership had split, and the pool hall and food over there still, but that was separate. Yeah. They didn't really commingle anymore. And they have that upstairs private area upstairs for the members, but no one really went up there. We sat in the barber chairs downstairs, and that was where I first started to get a glimpse into some of the more boutique type cigars that I hadn't come across in the past. That's where I smoked, Barry, you smoked the Warp Futuro the other day. That's the first place I had that cigar, and I just fell in love with that cigar. I had it at Burns.
Yeah, Burns was originally owned by a guy named Phil Wyndham. Super nice guy, but he was a just avid billiards player.
Yeah.
That's why there was a huge billiards hall tacked on with the cigar shop, right? And then basically he sold the cigar shop to another man. I cannot remember his name. I met
Mike.
him.
It was Mike.
Yeah, I
Mike
met him
Hunter?
actually at the last Golden Band Awards dinner.
Yeah.
Super nice guy. He was a really nice guy. I really liked him a lot. But he had the cigar shop. Then Phil, so basically he just ran the pool hall area. And
So-
I don't even know if he's still doing that anymore either.
So Mike, I met Mike when I was there, and he would smoke the Opus X, but he'd smoke like half of it and then smoke another one. He would never smoke the full thing. He would just smoke Opus X after Opus X and not smoke the whole cigar.
That's fucking weird.
Yeah.
That makes me
That's
both
just fucking-
happy and sad
Yeah.
at the same time.
Yeah, no, I know, but they, I would buy a lot of Fuente there, in Davidoff.
The only cigar shop I've ever been to in Chattanooga was the Cigar Man.
Burns is an absolute destination place, so I would just say. By the way, just so Jay actually mentioned Pro Cigar, I agreed 100% on Pro Cigar, and I just took the definition differently. I was thinking more of events in the States here, so.
Yeah, the way I took it was a customer event.
Kind of, yeah.
Yeah.
I
Not an
took it as,
industry
And that's how
event.
I meant, yeah, with all
right,
respect
that's
to-
how I took it. But Jay's, look, Pro Cigar, I could go on about that too, and I have amazing experience.
I
Yeah, he's
worded it
not
this
wrong.
way. Yeah, Jay
Yeah.
wasn't there for the explanation, so like, yeah, I worded it specifically so that you guys would focus on the way that
Yeah.
we've kind of have. Because
Yeah.
I knew your answer, Coop. Not that I'm trying
Yeah.
to create some kind of intrigue.
No.
But I know how you feel about Pro Cigar.
Yeah, it's a different, like, that's by the producers. I was thinking more of this is the teams here, the brands here that do it. Yeah. I mean, I really missed the tweet up. That's something I wish somehow.
I wish I had. Been
I
able
wish
to
it
go.
somehow would come back. It was a lot of hard work went into that every year. It was always work. I used to go out there even a couple of days early. It got to the point where I'd go out there on like Wednesday just to hang out at Burns for a couple of days.
Yeah, because it was Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. It was a whole
Right, so
weekend
I get out there.
events.
I get out there Wednesday and I'd leave Monday. That's
Yeah.
how that, and I'd enjoy this because Sunday I'd spend out just kind of hanging in the afternoon there. So,
Mike Bellady told an epic Chattanooga tweet up story one time, and I was like, God damn it! I wish I had been there. It would been
he was
awesome.
he was like the first year I think at his company, one of them.
You know what? It was originally not supposed to be one shop either. It defaulted there because of just trying to coordinate it. But
That's what I remember that. Yeah,
originally the thought was to have it somewhere like Atlanta, to where we could go to different shops. Right? It wasn't in one. It was almost like a cigar crawl, like they do the pub crawls,
right.
but a cigar crawl. It's originally was the main idea.
Yep.
But logistically, it was kind of hard to
Yeah.
piece together on Twitter. So it defaulted to Burns originally.
Yeah, and Burns made all, like I said, it made all the sense to have it there. The property made a lot of sense. I mean, you could be outside too. They had an outside pavilion.
Was this a multi-vendor event, like traditionally?
Yeah.
Like okay.
It
Yes.
was without the table-cloths. If that made sense. Like instead of having they had a community room where people would go in and they talk about their products for a bit. And then they had humidor time, like where they would be in the humidor and you'd go, and if you wanted to get your deals on stuff, everyone had an exclude. And some people would really
Oh,
like
that
Gabriel.
sounds cool.
Gabriel worked that humidor like hard for Coots. I remember that. They didn't do that every year.
That was
at the
his
community
background,
room.
man. He was in
Yeah.
retail first.
Yeah,
That
they
was
didn't do
his
the community.
thing.
Exactly. They didn't do the community unit every year, by the way. They stopped doing it, which was I gave them feedback. I thought it was a disappointment that they discontinued that. But they did have a great charity raffle, I believe, as well. So
God, man.
And what was pretty
I can't
cool
believe I
was
missed this.
Drew
Sucks.
Estate did something really cool on the first one too, where they had a whole room kind of off to the side. They had their whole room, and they actually had game tables set up to where you could buy things, but you could also win stuff too that you
Yep.
couldn't buy. You know, it was kind of cool. They almost
Yep.
had like a Wheel of Fortune wheel kind
Yeah.
of a thing. It was kind of neat, kind of a cool way to kind of do that. So they made it fun too.
yeah, Saka was there with Drew Estate, and it was rare that Saka did Drew Estate events, by the way. And he brought this cigar called the Liga Prada number 9 Pequeño, which was almost like a dirty rat size of the number 9. And I fell in love with it, right? And when he left True Estate, he sent me 2 bundles of those cigars
Nice.
to keep. And actually, they're all gone. And I gave a lot of them away to people because I put one on Facebook. Everyone wanted to smoke it, right? So I sent it to people, and everyone I sent it to always sent me something back, and I never asked for anything in return. People were really nice about it. But yeah, Saka was in. It was cool. Like I said, Saka does a lot of events now, but I'm just telling you, those days, Ben, you go back 10 years ago, Saka didn't do a lot of events. So that's rare to get Saka. Yeah, it's an event.
So was Drew Estate Saka like pre-Dunbarton Tobacco Trust, Steve? Was he was he just as curmudgeon-y, or was this something that he's grown into?
Absolutely, he was.
I've known him before. I knew him before Drew Estate.
You knew him JR days?
Yes.
Nice.
I knew him from the cigar forum days.
The forums and shit. Yeah. Nice.
Yeah.
That's how you know Skip too, right? You go back with Skip that far too? That's crazy. That's crazy.
I remember, I'll just say, I'm going to memory. I remember when Skip was when he did the Cro-Magnon. You remember what the Cro-Magnon was originally called?
Adrian's
Cro-Magnon. He was doing it that's when he came in with Mike.
Yeah.
And they were doing, I think they did the original ones in Costa Rica.
It's named after.
No, Adrian's was made in Costa Rica.
Yeah,
so he was working with Skip to bring a cigar, then decided to form Romacraft.
Okay, that's what.
Right.
So Adrian's was his own thing. That was just Mike Rosales.
That was just
because originally it was called
that's his son's name. That's his son. Yeah, yes, you're right. It was named Adrian's Cro-Magnon. That's correct.
Yeah,
that was their first iteration. Yeah.
Yep. I think Ben and I. Yeah.
I think the blend was the same, like roughly, if I remember correctly.
I know Ben and I just talked a lot about Tweetup, but I'm curious about Nielsen and you guys.
Yeah, Nielsen, what's your? I know you go to a lot of shops, but
I mean, I've been to a lot of shop events, and so I haven't been to like the Great Smoke, or the Colorado that's going on the mountain, Rocky Mountain Fest. I think it's so I got to go just in terms of cigar shop events, and we've got a shop that's about, I don't know, it's about 35-40 minutes from me. It's at Norwood Cigars. I think you guys have met Vic. Oscar had done a cigar just for Vic, and I think that at some point that they were looking to review it. Anyway, every year it still is Vic's birthday. Every year he would have Oscar. One year he did a unveiling of his window. It was a big Oscar Valladares like window that he made and all this different stuff, but he would have bands, and just it was outside, and Oscar was there, Oscar's rep. What made that good was it was the people, right? So it wasn't necessarily this like unique event in terms of a shop, and everybody has specials and everything going on, but the way that they had set up, the people that were there, Oscar, would answer questions about what he was doing this year. And this goes 7 years ago. So this is when Oscar was he really at that point had the was it the
Leaf?
Well, he had the Leaf kind of. I mean, that was still with part with Island Jim, right? But he had the 2012, and then he had the Oscar Habano. I mean, he only had like 5 cigars in his portfolio, and he answered all kinds of questions and just kind of gave it just more knowledge based about what he was trying to do and where he was going with the company and everything like that. So that event every year was really good. Unfortunately, COVID hit. They didn't do it for a couple of years. They didn't do it last year, so I hope it's coming back. I asked Oscar about it at PCA, and he said he wants to do it. So it's usually in September, so it's next month if they do it. But I don't know that. So for me, I don't have any Chattanooga stories or anything like that from a big event. I mean, the event that we went to in Miami with you guys, that was one of my only kind of true like cigar, what I call industry event type outside PCA. So I don't really have the knowledge base that you guys do from those kind of events. So the Oscar event at Norwood Cigars was kind of mine.
I mean, I'm kind of the same way though, Aaron. I mean, besides the Chattanooga Tweetup, I don't go to them. I don't. The only one I've ever been to was the Great Smoke that we all went to.
No, you went to
I
Weasel.
just-
You went to Weasel Fest.
Oh yeah, I forgot about Weasel Fest.
Yeah.
You know what? I would put Weasel Fest up there with the Chattanooga Tweet Up, man.
You had a good time. Yeah, I remember.
That was a freaking awesome event. I really had a great time there, and they treated everybody there like royalty. It was fantastic event, both pre and post event. It was really awesome. Yeah, but I mean that's what I live kind of right up the road with where with you. So that was kind of a no-brainer. But usually other than that, I don't really go to them. I mean, and it's for a multitude of reasons. It's usually that, it's a lot of it is where the principals are there and they're meeting customers and stuff. So like we know everybody, you know what I'm saying? And we go there. We're not going for the cigar, but not really. We're kind of going to kind of see our friends and kind of hang out. But you really can't do that at most of these events because they're so active with the other customers that you can't really even speak to some of your friends because there's just so many people.
Well,
Right,
we didn't go to the great. I mean, I agree. We didn't go to the Great Smoke for the cigars. I mean, that was a byproduct of it. But we went to go see people we knew and hang out together. I mean, that's kind of where I was going with that event that I like because it was just the people, right?
So it's funny. I have a comment about this, right? So I'll give you guys my pick in a second, but I wanted to talk about the Great Smoke in general because you were talking to Ben, you took the words out of my mouth, and Aaron, you said it the same thing too. Like we didn't really go for the cigars, but a lot of people do. A lot of people like it's a huge, like Abe does a really good job. That's a great value piece.
There are a lot of people who go there for the cigars. Yeah.
So, but it was really interesting to me. I was standing there. We were standing there at the Great Smoke. If you guys remember, we were at that tabletop just outside of his table, and we were talking about Steve a second ago and how his old curmudgeon self, man. I love Steve. I love every conversation I have with that man. I really do. And so he's hanging out with us, and he's just shooting the bull. Like you said, we're all friends and everything, right? And and Aaron, you made a similar comment too about when you were around the My Father and Tatuaje tables, but they're like all these people trick-or-treating around us and everything. And like not one person outside of our group like strolled up to like listen in on the conversation or say hi to Steve or anything like that. It was just like, it was so weird to me in a world like it, like we joke about, well, not joke because it's a reality happens to us, right? A PCA where everyone's like, someone will fucking come up mid-interview, right? This was like an open table essentially, and not one person came up to listen in on our conversation or to say hi to him. And it was just like, man, Steve's just one of, a solid 36 amazing folks that Abe gets to go to the Great Smoke. So I mean, I know there's a lot people have their their choice over who to converse with and stuff. But I was like, man, like we're just sitting here shooting the shit with Steve Saka, and we're friends with him, and that's great. It's like one of the perks that it's one of the perks of our position and stuff. But like people are just walking by, and I'm like, I don't know. I kind of had an outer body experience in that moment. I just thought it was interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree with that too. Because like, Aaron and I are in line with our friend Trip, and we're going through the line getting the cigars, and we're halfway through, and Pete's sitting in the middle of the floor, and he's, you tell me he's trying to get a hold of me and waving me over, and y'all just standing over there, nobody's around. It's just, he's talking, and he calls me over, and we to talk about F1 racing.
Right.
That's what we call me over. We're talking about qualifying, that day and stuff. I leave Aaron hanging. He's trying to go get my cigars for me. Shit in the line,
But Aaron's at the My Father and Tatuaje booth, and he's standing. Aaron, I don't want to steal your thunder, but there was someone behind you or in front of you that made a comment that was just like mind blowing to you. I'll let you say it because I don't think my audience has heard the story.
Yeah. So I was, as Ben mentioned, he ditched me. So I was in line trick-or-treating for Ben and myself. And I think it was it wasn't Crown. It was the Tatuaje and My Father booths were next to each other. And the guy in front of me basically asked one of the reps, the guy that was manning the booth, like, are these good? I mean, I've never had one of these. And he asked his buddy, like, hey, have you ever had a My Father? I haven't heard of these guys before. It was like, clearly there for the deal of the cigars and hadn't heard. I mean, we were talking about like, hadn't heard of, take your pick boutique brand, which, I could understand, but we're talking about.
I love the guy. Like I love Sebastian and Brian, but like if someone had said that about Cavalier Geneva, that's a different story.
Yeah, right. Yeah, you said Cavalier, or Dapper, right? Okay, maybe hadn't heard of those, but you're talking about Tatuaje and My Father, and this guy hadn't heard of either of them. It's like he turns around, he's like, "Are they good?" I'm like, I didn't know what he'd taken me. I thought he was kind of pulling my leg at first, but I'm like, "Oh yeah, you really enjoy both those." I said I highly recommend checking out more things in their portfolio other than what they're handing out. So it was one of those where it was kind of eye-opening to me that like I just always assumed that when people would go, because again, it's kind of coming off PCA where people know the brands and they're there, and they're, whether you're media or your retailers, you're going to know all the brands that are there. I mean, you had people showing up that never heard of Tatuaje and My Father, and it was like, granted, when I'm surrounded by you guys and we're at the PCA and we're at these events, I'm in this like bubble in a sense of it's a different world, so to speak, in terms of knowledge and contacts and what people know and their knowledge around cigars versus what I saw there and kind of the conversations I heard. I mean, these are truly people that probably smoke. I'm not saying swishers, but they probably smoked a Fuente before. They probably smoked, whatever common brand and had never heard of a My Father and Tatuaje. And I was like taken back by it in a good way, though, right?
Yeah.
Wow. Hey,
and hopefully they created some new fans, like that's what's really good. That's why I love Perdomo's presentation. They hand out a single cigar, but it's in a sealed bag with a placard talking about the cigar.
Absolutely.
And it's fucking great, man. If you don't know who Perdomo is, like, and look, Nick's one of those people that has, I mean, he's got an well-deserved, confidence in his product, but I think he recognizes something that I certainly failed to realize, that people there may not know who he is and may not know who his cigars are. So he's putting his best foot forward with that kind of stuff. And that's
I will say too, that we're going back off this, but at that cigar, at the Great Smoke, 90% of the cigars that were being handed out weren't the like what I'll call the discount model. They were Abe
pushes on these guys to bring good stuff.
They were handing out good cigars because think about it. If you've never had exposure to Tatuaje and My Father, and you decide that you're going to go the cheap brand, the cheap model, if you will, and that's your four, you're going to be like, yeah, man, it's all right. But you know what? Majority of stuff they handed out, I think people would go back to because I think they were good cigars they handed out.
Yeah, Abe pushes for two. No, look, Abe's event's a great event, so I don't want to discount that either. There's two things that Abe pushes for. One is he pushes for them to bring, like you said, not the bottom feeder cigars, which I've seen at other events, and he pushes for the principals to be there. Because a few years ago, the principals stopped showing up. Right now, Nick Perdomo, I'll say, has always been there. This year, he wasn't there for the first time because of his surgery, but he had the shoulder surgery. But it was one year. It became very much like a rep event, and Abe realized that, and he started pushing back now, asking for the principals to come because it was turning it. Not that I'm trying. I'm not trying to disparage a rep event, but he wanted the principals at this particular event so people would have a chance to interact with them. So he pushed back to start getting them back, and they started coming back a few years ago.
Well, what that story, kind of points out too is how valuable some of these festivals really are, because it's a great value for your cigar budget. Really, I mean, you're not going to buy the ticket for the Great Smoke. There's no way in hell you could probably buy half of those cigars for what you paid for that ticket. There's no way. You're getting a great, huge sample of all the different brands and types of cigars in one shot. So for somebody like the Erron was talking about that is new, that might not know, might have started smoking cigars that week. Who the hell knows? This is a great way for them to get introduced to various different brands that they might not have picked up, but they're getting it because it was at something like the Great Smoke.
Yeah.
So I love them. Yeah. It's not something that I particularly go to because I'm looking for something different, really, and it's usually not there. But for just a normal cigar person, the value for your money, especially with Great Smoke, is just amazing. I wholeheartedly recommend it.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. 100%.
Yeah, I think that I mean, I think it was I think it's fantastic. I've been to two of the great smokes and everything. My favorite's probably my true first one. I mean, and it'll always have I think it'll always have a sentimental value to me just because that's where the show launched, you know, and it was truly an introduction to a lot of different things, but I mean, it was all centered around one brand, so it was very similar to the Weasel Fest. Then it was Lozonapalooza. You know, over 6 years ago. It was my,
they do a good event.
Yeah, and I think it was like, Eric and Hector, and at the time there was just a couple, like Jack wasn't there. Well, Jack actually was there. He just wasn't part of the company.
He crashed the event. He would crash the event.
And a lot of people came by, like that was back when Crux was actually distributed by Estanosa, so Casey Hogan was there, and Terrence had actually just left Quesada, and he dropped in, and that's when all the rumors started swirling and shit like that. That's where Coop made his famous prediction about him going to Casa Fernandez at the time, which is now,
and I didn't know, and he was going there. I just guessed where he was going.
So I think it holds sentimental value for me just because, again, it was my first experience, something like it. But I think, I can't remember if that was the second one or third one for them, period. It definitely wasn't their first, but it was just such a really cool event. I mean, aside from loud music, which I'm not really a fan of, but I know Eric's a huge fan of music and stuff like that. But Eric had, they had such house hospitality. The food was amazing. The camaraderie was great. I met all sorts of people, which was fantastic. Eric brought in the last person that's known to have seen Che Guevara alive.
Yeah.
To talk about that experience with, me being the history buff, I was fucking, I mean, it was freaking hot too. It was like in November and it was still hot in Miami, but I was sweating buckets standing because all the seats were taken, and I was just glued to this guy talking, man. It was just so cool. He had a barber there, world-class barber. I got a haircut, which was, it's probably the best haircut I've ever gotten in my life. So thanks, Eric. I'll never get a haircut as good as that again. So I need to find that guy next time I'm in Miami. It was just a phenomenal experience, it's where I met Tim Wong for the first time. Now he's a perennial guest on my anniversary show. Met Hector for the first time. It was just
hanging out in Hector's office is the highlight of Lozonapalooza too. He kind of holds court for a lot of people throughout the day.
Yeah, it was really great.
I have one bad memory of Lozonapalooza. That's when I had my first signs of sepsis.
Oh, really?
And I fell asleep in Hector's office. Like all of a sudden, I just fell, and for no reason. And I wasn't tired or anything. And that's what happened. I was starting to get the signs of that thing there. Yeah.
Oh, right. That's crazy.
Yeah, and Erron was there in that year with June, and because they came the year after you came, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Yeah, so Erron came the year. Yeah. So when I went, my big thing was when I recovered, I went back because I just said I have to reconquer Lozonapalooza, and I did, which was really cool. The one thing you kind of missed with Lozonapalooza, what they've done in the last year or two, is they moved the Saturday day to Caribbean Cigar.
Oh, nice.
Which is really cool. Yeah. So yeah, it's kind of cool because you can get in the humidor, you get out of the warehouse for a day and stuff. And other people, not everyone goes. Some people do other stuff in Florida, but that's Alan does a great job hosting that day for everybody. So
yeah, it wasn't part of the trip, but it wasn't part of the Lozonapalooza. But that was the first time I ever got to see LT Ton Bronze.
Yeah,
it was just a really iconic trip for me, and so I really enjoyed it. The
medianoche sandwich.
Yeah. Authentic medianoche, good shit. But I think the barn smoker was a really great experience for me too.
Fantastic. I mean, I think
True State
has been a barn smoker. Yeah, that's another one.
I mean, I'm sure they're all great in their own regard, and I definitely want to go to different ones. But I mean, the fact that it was at, Florida Sun Grown, Jeff puts on a fantastic event, period. And then to have it out at his farm and to partner with Drew Estate, for that kind of deal, it was just epic,
Yep.
But good times, good stuff. So,
Yep.
all right. So wanted to get into, that was just, the question of the day. Cause the recent event, up in, at the Rocky Mountain Cigar Fest, I thought it'd be an interesting thing to kind of explore, as a group, but, so I wanted to dive into, actually before we get in here too, cause we've kind of already gone long a little bit, but let's go ahead and go ahead and get into the presidential trivia segment. Okay, so which of course is always brought to you by United Cigars, featuring La Giana Havana, distributors of Jose Dominguez, Bandolero, Garofalo, the Firecracker, and the highly acclaimed Atabey, Byron, and now Alfonso lines from Selected Tobacco. Smoke one today and start living united. So here's the question, guys. It is multiple choice. This isn't a stump bear situation, so you guys got a 25% chance because there's only 4 choices of getting it right. So which US president actually was part of the purchase of the land that is now southern Arizona and southern New Mexico? So southern Arizona and southern New Mexico. Was it A, Thomas Jefferson, B, Franklin Pierce, C, Ulysses S. Grant, or D, Zachary Taylor?
Oh, I think I know. I think I know too. I'll let you go first, Ben.
Pierce.
I always go Pierce as well.
Aaron, you got a different answer?
Just because, why not? I have fucking no idea what the answer is, but I'll guess it. I know this is not right, but I'm going to say Grant.
The reason I say Pierce was because it was a middle of the 1800s, I think.
It was like the 1840s or 50s. It was.
Yeah, like the 1850s, I thought.
It was the Gadsden Purchase, if I'm not mistaken.
I thought Grant was on a train and he was going west, and I don't know.
Oh wait. It was Arizona, New Mexico. Was it Arizona, New Mexico?
Southern Arizona and southern New Mexico. That is correct.
Okay, yeah. It's the Gadsden Purchase. That's the Gadsden Purchase. Yeah, I'm going to stick with Pierce.
Yeah, it was pre-Civil War.
Yeah. All right. Well, you guys are correct. It was part of the Gadsden Purchase, which was under Franklin Pierce. So it was agreement between the United States and Mexico. It was finalized in 1854. And it's named for Mr. James Gadsden, who was actually the the ambassador, or what we call the minister to back. They didn't start using the term ambassador until, I believe, the 20th century. It was foreign minister to certain countries was basically the title that you were given. So he was the foreign minister to Mexico at the time, and became, these two. It was like 30,000 square miles along the southern border of Arizona and New Mexico, that provided for the Southern Transcontinental Railroad, specifically why it was acquired. So
yeah, it was basically Tucson is the big city that came in, and Yuma are the 2 big cities that are known in that area.
Yeah.
Right.
A bunch of Mexicans one day all of a sudden became Americans, and we're like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
So,
well, if it hadn't already been part of Texas, right? It actually would have been in my hometown of El Paso, because the land that was acquired was actually up to the Texas border, which includes the Mesilla Valley, which is technically El Paso is part of the Mesilla Valley. That's where like Las Cruces is and things like that. So like, so it kind of related to me personally and everything. So I thought it's interesting though. So this is probably one of the least sexy purchases, right? Or at least historic, that people don't really know about, but it got me thinking about this, like what, Coop, I gotta ask you this question, man. Let's just take you back. Let's say you lived in let's take you back to around this time, the 1820s to 1840s, right? Or even earlier than that, early 1800s, right? All these purchases and all this expansion, right, is happening. Do you stick around on the East Coast, or do you think you get the itch and do you move westward? What do you think you do?
After watching Hell on Wheels, which took place in the later, right?
Right.
I'm staying on the East Coast. I'm not going out there with the stuff I saw on that show. Because I imagine it was just as tough in the 1820s and the 1800s to do that. I would not be going out on the Lewis and Clark expeditions. I'd be very happy by the Liberty Bell with Ben Franklin, just staying in Philadelphia. Yeah.
Ben, what about you, Aaron? You guys, would you guys have made the jump? Would you guys have moved westward, or would do you think you guys would have hung out?
Hung out. You know what, the journey out west, the way they had to travel and everything, the unknown like that, no way. I would have stayed put for a while.
I probably would have went west for the same reasons everybody else did, right? If you wanted to make your own way, the best way to do it was to head west, claim your big lot of land out there. Hopefully you didn't get raided by hostile Native American tribes. You made it through the Comanche and the Apache and the different Plains Indians that got there, safely. But just assuming you did, basically, there was a lot of opportunity out there where a person can make their own destiny, where you didn't have that option early, in Eastern America at the time, So there's a reason everybody did it back then, because a lot of people went for religious freedom or just because they were poor. And if you could be super poor in New York City or go west and have hundreds of acres of land that it's yours now.
Yeah, good point. Good point.
Well, I think this would be an interesting question, I think, to ask some of the entrepreneurs, this industry is full of entrepreneurs, right? I'm going to save this question about hey, as far as the gold rush, the 1840s California, the gold rush to the Yukon, who in the industry would have made those treks and stuff. I definitely see myself doing a couple of things. I would have loved the Oklahoma land grab. I would have loved to have done the race for land, I think that would have been so much fun to participate in one of those without getting shot, of course, but that's a byproduct of the fun aspect of it. But I also I could also see me and Ben fucking hanging out on a riverboat up and down the Mississippi, fucking, selling cigars or trading other kind of wares, or me
Nielsen
playing poker.
Nielsen and I will be at the trading posts.
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah,
we wouldn't be going. We'd be smoking cigars and
wishing you guys good luck and hope you don't get
exactly. Yeah.
shot along the way.
Wouldn't that have been fucking cool, man? Ben,
Send
to
us a postcard.
hang out with Mark Twain, man, on a riverboat.
Yeah.
That's the kind of shit that I dream of. That would have been so cool. But yeah, no, I thought it was an interesting piece of trivia that would kind of lead to this discussion. So
just think of how many people left the East Coast, went to the Arizona, New Mexico territories, because they weren't states at the time, they were territories, they went out to purchase, and became millionaires because they started mining for tin, copper, and silver mostly in those territories.
Yep.
And overnight became millionaires.
Yeah.
That's America.
Absolutely.
Well, it's just crazy. Tombstone, Arizona, which is now literally it's just a tourist town now. There's almost nobody lives there. That was a body mining camp. Ritzy as shit, because it was just all the silver money that was just going through that place was just nuts. It's just crazy. It's crazy. And now that town's dead. It's unbelievable. It's crazy how history works sometimes. But that was our presidential trivia segment, which is always brought to you by United Cigars, featuring La Giovanna, distributors of Jose Dominguez, Bandolero, Garofalo, the Firecracker, and the highly acclaimed Atabey, Byron, and now Alfonso lines from Selected Tobacco. Smoke one today and start living united. So I forgot to mention, basically my event question was kind of an offshoot of what we asked about in the asylum, moment a little bit, but it's the opposite. It's about being around people and stuff like that. So, but to kind of get back into what was going to be one of our main points of discussion. I call it the PCA hangover questions. And I kind of I had a grouping of some questions here and then some what I call some unanswerable questions that I wanted to pose to you guys tonight. So I know that some of you guys kind of got excited. So let's just start with the trade show. Which company carried the most momentum through like into the show and during the show? I won't say like the best booth or anything like that, but like they carried the most momentum going into the show and during the show. Ben, we'll start with you.
I think there was actually several that probably carried momentum into the show and then kept carrying it. The first two that come to mind is Ferio Tego and Tatawahi. Especially Ferio Tego. Everybody was really looking forward to the new Suma to see how Michael was going to blend his real first cigar. Like it's just him. And I think it was really well received. I mean, people were clamoring to get to order and put orders in for that. Same with Tatawahi with their 20th, the new 10th anniversary Tuxlas. I mean, those were huge. That was big news when it came out. That's the two probably that come to mind the most that had some buzz going in and then maintained that throughout the show. That was two probably that come to mind the best.
Nice.
Nielsen? No, have Coop go. I want to hear it.
So I'm going to start with Forged. Forged for sure. They had momentum just for the fact that they were coming back there. And so I think there was momentum going in. They kind of announced a few releases, but I think coming in there, they had a lot of activity in there. I think they had one of the highlights of the show, which was the Johnny Tobacconaut. We got to see Alec Bradley back there, right? So we wanted to see what Alec Bradley was going to do. So we saw that, that booth was, like I said, quite a bit of activity in there going on. So I'm going to say Forged as far as a company going in there. I'm going to say CLE as well. They had a lot of innovative type of releases, particularly with these South American tobaccos. And I think they actually did a good job with their PCA exclusives this year. So they had that Sensorium cigar, which was using some of that tobacco that I forget the name. I apologize for forgetting the name of it. They had that going on. So I'm going to say CLE as well. And I'm going to say McAuliffe. Right, I think McAuliffe with the black got a nice boost going into the show. Even though it was one release, right? I think it gave them a nice little momentum going into the show, and a lot of people who maybe didn't experience the black prior to the show got to experience the black at the show. So those are the three that come to mind for me, and I don't disagree with the ones Ben said at all either. So he gave good examples as well.
Yeah, I think McAuliffe was a really good one because a lot of people were wondering what was going to happen when they got rid of their bold line. Yeah, because that was a huge seller in a lot of shops, especially in our area. Coop, I kept hearing.
Oh, in our area,
huge sellers.
Bold was big in Charlotte. I can tell you, Bold.
Yeah,
and I can tell you there were people who weren't happy about that. Okay,
right. So everybody was wondering,
but they were very happy when they heard about black.
Right, that was the thing. Like, okay, what are they going to do? They got to do something. To replace the Bold. What are they going to come out with? What are they going to do? And that buzz was building about the black. Oh, the McAuliffe Black, here it comes. It came out in the trade show and people loved it. It was a really good cigar. And it's maintained. Well, we'll get to that afterwards. But it was, it had a buzz going in, and it's another one. Even the last day, man, there was people in that booth making orders. So I mean it did well for them, I thought.
Absolutely, yeah.
But Coop, just I want to challenge you here just a little bit on your selection of Forged. Like, I think you're absolutely right. Like, the booth was buzzing. I think it was really great. It was a smaller booth than they're accustomed to, but I thought that they did a really good job.
Right.
Of course, Victoria's the master of this. Making sure that people are available in each section, and she's coordinating media appointments as well as like retailer appointments, and she's doing it all and making it look super simple and easy because she's amazing. But one of our biggest criticisms, though, coming out of the show, was that like they didn't do a good job of marketing some of these key releases that ended up being highlights for us. I mean, can you
They
say
held,
like, can you?
they held them back for the show though. That's what they did. Yeah. I agree with you. They didn't do, like, I would have probably did a little better job with some of the Room 101 stuff, especially going into the show. Because they had some really good stuff. Same with the Alec Bradley. I think we knew Fine and Rare was coming back, but that was it. But yeah, my thing going into the show was that people were anticipating the return of Fords, right?
Got it.
And
Okay.
and historically, okay, I'm going to go historically. This is the way General has played the trade show. They don't announce everything before the trade show. They tend to leave a lot before the trade show. So I was expecting about 10 to 12 new releases, and that's pretty much what we got. So because again, I've covered General before, and General would like maybe pre-announce like a CAO or Cohiba early, right? And then you get there and you go to all their stations, and everyone had something new, right? It was kind of similar with Ford's had a similar model this year. So I kind of knew that model covering these guys for a long time. So
I didn't realize this into the show that the CAO is not part of the Sporged family.
no, they kept that in the General.
Yeah.
Yeah, they sent Justin. I was joking. We said when Diesel got sent to Ford's, I said Justin had to go to the children's table. But they've done a good job, Ford's. I'm not knocking them. We kidded him at first, though. But I think Ford's had a good show, especially with Johnny Tobacconaut. I think that was the one cigar we talked about, that there wasn't a standout maybe Ford cigar.
Yeah, that one.
But I think that one was the one. But it didn't get the buzz. It was when people smoked it. That was how it became a standout, but people weren't talking about it unless they smoked it.
Mm-hmm.
It's because they didn't really push that one much. Like, and that's my only issue.
I agree with you on that.
General and Ford.
Yeah.
There's so much shit coming out from them that stuff just gets lost. It's just too much. But I know they've got so many brands that they got to cover that even if they just release one, it's a lot coming out. It is so much. But I mean, they came out with a lot at the trade show.
Yeah.
And we just got a new sample package of a bunch of more stuff that just came out.
And how good is Victoria? She knows the stuff we didn't get.
Yes.
And we got that. Yeah. But Ben, you're right, because if Johnny Tobacconaut was like announced in June, or even started to ship a little in June, kind of what McAuliffe did with Black, I think it would have had that same reaction as in McAuliffe Black. It would have been the star of that booth, because I think people would be saying, if some momentum got carried in about that Johnny Tobacconaut, they could have carried that right through the show, and it would have been better. I agree on that.
Yeah, or at least I think that should have been a focus in the booth as well. Like I just think it should have been more advertised or something put out bigger to let people know that is there, because that's a special cigar. They just needed something else in that booth.
Put Justin in a spacesuit. Like you could really put Justin to good use. You put Justin in the Johnny Tobacconaut spacesuit. How great would that have been? Think about it.
Oh man.
How great would that have been? Just leave Justin at home.
And just
fucking Neil Armstrong.
Well, if he's got to be there, let's just throw him in a freaking spacesuit. Is what I'm saying. Yeah,
and lock him into it.
And lock him into it. But no, you're right, Ben. I mean, that should have been like, because we've been telling, like, people told me you had to smoke that cigar. I smoked it. Now I'm telling people you got to smoke that cigar if you haven't smoked it yet.
It's fantastic.
Yeah.
It's fucking great. Yeah. All right, Aaron, what about you?
So obviously we got the questions. And so I did put a little thought into it. So the two that I was thinking, one was Forged, and I'm not going to beat what was already been said, but the way my barometer, and I kind of took it as, from a day one standpoint, like where was the most traffic and why? And so, because what I say is why is the most traffic is because building into it, people are going to go kind of the build up, right? The hype or what they want to go to and get there right away. So the for everything you said, I think Forged, but also, it could have been slightly misleading because the space, for the amount of product they had and the amount of reps they had, it was overcrowded. So it seemed like it was jammed.
It was very jammed, yes.
But look, there was a lot of like, I don't want to say unknown, but like, let's go check this out. And then the other one is, and I don't know if it was the hype from last year, or maybe people knew the guy was, but I mean, Espinosa.
Yeah.
I mean, Espinosa, you think about it, and I was knowing Guy was going to be there, you knew we were going to have a lot of people there, but I think could they keep the momentum or buzz or whatever you want to call it going into this show again, coming off of the last year's hype? What was that going to look like? And were they going to get the same uplift, same buzz, same traffic, same whatever you want to call it this year? Or was there going to be like a Guy Fieri fatigue almost? And I'd say no. I mean, I think if you
I agree.
looked at last year and then this year, you could argue it was even busier this year. So I'll say, we always talk about, is the Guy Fieri thing going to run its course? What's that going to look like? I'm telling you, the cigars stand up on their own, regardless of whether or not they're, the big difference is, yes, guys out there, great face for Espinosa, getting the Cigar Aficionado, cover helps. I mean, that continues the momentum, but those cigars on their own, I mean, this is not a, Jeremy Piven type situation or a one-off to where, it's going to come and go. I mean, they're a staple in my humidor. Those knuckle sandwiches, the Connecticut especially. And so I think the cigars hold up on their own. You got people that are looking to bring it in, and you've got the Guy Fieri added bonus, and it lived up to a second year of kind of that momentum or hype or leading into this trade show, and it was jammed again. So those are the two that I thought about going into it was going to be interesting. And I think both of it, from a sheer volume standpoint, I think they continue the momentum.
So I'll go ahead and we're going to go ahead because I don't want to necessarily bounce back to this topic, Aaron, since you brought it up. So after the series of questions around the PCA, I have some probably unanswerable questions, stuff that kind of carried on. So this is actually one of them, right? What can Guy Fieri and Espinosa do to continue this ride? Because I think you're right, Aaron. I think they absolutely built upon last year. I have some thoughts on it specifically, but I want you guys to weigh in on this. What can they do? And this might be a very simple question, but what can they do to continue the ride going into next year and beyond?
I mean, they can do several things. Go ahead, Aaron.
Go ahead.
I mean, it's quite a few things. I mean, to keep that kind of buzz going, I think they need to get Guy out there more. Like have him at Lazona Palooza, obvious. That's obvious one, right? But like any of the stuff, the big events, right? Like Rocky Mountain or the Cigar Aficionado, the Big Smoke, he should be there. He should be at those, and not just for a freaking hour, like at least the whole day, minimum, the whole day. They need to put him out there more, I mean, the cigars are fantastic. We all love them. They're amazing. And we've been to, the little private events, the after hours thing where he was there, and he gave an amazing, talk to us and stuff. And we saw how passionate he was about cigars and the industry and all that. But that was to a very small little group of people. That needs to be out there with everybody, I mean, even coming on y'all shows. He should come on y'all shows. Stuff like that. Like, people need to know that he's just not another celebrity. And I know we talk about it like, he's in it, and Espinosa talks about it, but we need to see it more. People need to see it. That it's not just some guy putting this, his emblem on a cigar, saying, look, I got a cigar, I mean, because the little talk he gave at the show the year before last was really kind of inspiring and inspirational, to be totally honest.
A lot of people needed to hear that thing too.
Yeah. But it only went to about 30 people.
Yeah.
I mean, that needs to be out there. He needs to be out there with cigar people and talking about this and showing his passion and all that to keep this buzz going. And it's not just about releasing a new cigar. That's not it. You don't need to release a cigar or two every year, just out there, keeping his name out there, showing that he's really in this for the long haul, and it's not just to make a quick buck on some box of cigars. Now we know he's not, because we talked to him, but the general consumer needs to know that. And I think a good way to do that is coming on shows like y'all have, or going to at the very least, the big major events that we were just talking about, like go to Abe's Great Smoke, stuff like that. He needs to be there and stuff like that,
He did go to the
think that's a
first
great
year.
way.
He did go to the first year, but he was only there for about 30 minutes.
That's my
And-
problem with that.
Right. And I think
Not 30 minutes, all freaking day.
yeah, and he was at Palooza last year, but I wasn't there. But that's also a very I hear what you're saying on that. Yeah.
So
I think they need a little more consumer engagement with that is what I need to see right
So
now.
I
A little
think-
more. That's not a criticism. They've done a very good job, by the way. But I think that would definitely help get it to the next level.
So I think my point was going to be number one, what you touched on, Ben. They can't do a new limited edition every year. I mean, they can, but that's not going to move the needle. He's got to be more macro versus micro, right? So when I say micro, he can't do it's great. We got to hear him talk in front of 30 people, but that's not macro.
Right.
He's got to be out there and, like, for instance, it's a perfect example, and to get to a point where I've given people the knuckle sandwich to smoke and they loved it. And I said, this is Guy Fieri's cigar that he does with Espinosa. And they're like, we had no idea Guy Fieri had a cigar. Now, I don't expect them. Guy Fieri's never going to be a Fuente or, Padron name, right? But enough secondhand knowledge / you hear from somebody, oh, Guy Fieri's got a cigar. So it's got to be more macro level. The cigar aficionado, I'm sure that's going to help, but he's got to be out there front and center more to get to the average consumer, so they know that he's part of that brand and he's out there and has his own cigar, and not just as a one-off for 30 minutes. I mean, everything we kind of talked about, but that's going to make them have more staying power, is to have him more mainstream than just doing the one-off kind of micro events. That's
what that's going to help with. Again, this is not I think they've done a very good job in
it's
terms
not
of
criticism.
execution.
No, yeah.
Right. They've done
The
a very
question
good
is
job.
how to continue the ride.
But the thing is, you want
not what they've
now-
done. They've done it
here's
well.
Right. But here's what they need to do now. They need to reach not the cigar. I think they have reached the cigar geek with Guy. Now they got to kind of try to get out of that zone with it.
That's what I'm saying. Exactly.
Yeah, and that's where, I think that's where they need to do that. That's a key thing where, for example, I still consider the Big Smoke a closed event to some extent, right? It needs to be a more open event he needs to be at, like, where he is there kind of like the whole time. So I think they did a little bit of at the trade show this year with him when he did you weren't there, Erron, but he did a walkthrough on the show floor, which I thought was good. He was reaching out to other companies and everything.
I was there. I thought, yeah.
Yeah. So you were there. It was day one, right?
Yeah,
So,
we were in the Rocky booth.
But now I think this is where I think Espinosa's they've got to get it beyond the Espinosa like Lozona Palooza group. They got to get that, because you have this like golden nugget here of a Guy Fieri, who, like, my mom, when we had him on KMA radio, okay, my mom tuned into that show. I've never tuned in any of my podcasts. It's the one time she tuned in not because of me, because of Guy Fieri, right?
Yeah, but I have a question for you guys.
Right.
Okay, so this is I don't know this answer.
Yeah.
Locally to me, now, believe it or not, the Chicago market is not very good for it's not a Charlotte, it's nowhere near something in Florida.
Charlotte's not great either, but yeah, kind of.
But Chicago is not a great cigar market. Right? It's just not. There's taxes. There's a lot of this stuff going into it. But regardless, with that said, Espinosa is not carried in a lot of stores that I know. Right. So I would love to hear, and maybe we'll talk to Hector about this, but I would like to know the amount of new accounts that have been opened up. And
I'm sure it's massive.
Well, I hope so. And the other thing is they could do, and as cheesy as this sounds, but I don't know what you do from a facing standpoint necessarily, but maybe you have guys, you advertise some way to get the Guy Fieri brand bigger than just the
cigar
Espinosa portfolio. You have to have something to where it draws attention that brings the Guy Fieri persona to those lounges, to the B&Ms that maybe people are not, they're probably not going to know about it by just looking at a facing.
Well, so I have a thought on this. All right. This is how it gets taken to the next level because Guy Fieri is a next level person. Like he is a master marketer. He has built all these brands off of himself and his personality. Numerous restaurants, numerous different themes, TV shows, you know, game show hosting. Holy shit. Like the list goes on, right? So the next thing is what I think what a lot of people fail to realize is that Knuckle Sandwich is owned by Guy Fieri. It's not a brand.
It's a separate company.
Yeah, it's a separate company. So, that being said, the next thing that's going to happen is there's going to be a Knuckle Sandwich cigar shop or series of shops that spring up. That's what's going to happen next. And they're probably going to tie into restaurants, or some of his restaurants will have an extension put on that's the Knuckle Sandwich Cigar Lounge. That's what's going to happen. That's how he's going to take it to the next level. And his dedication and what he talked about to kind of align to it, because he was talking about this, like you were talking about the speech to a small group of people. Like he kind of, in my mind, this is what I heard. He kind of alluded it to it in my head, was just like he said he wanted to, that he not only was, and I don't think this was just for rhetoric's sake. Like he was talking about it. He said, "Not my goal isn't just to give something to you all, but it's to become a part of you." And he specifically mentioned retail. And again, he was you could say, okay, well, Bear, he just knew his audience because he's a PCA, and that certainly could be the case. But that was like I've followed this man's career, and I understand the way his mind works to a certain extent. And that's just the way I see it. That's the next level. And what a great, oh my gosh, what a great boon that would be to Espinosa, right? To have this partnership with the guy who's starting to own lounges, and basically your cigars would have to be featured prominently.
Yeah, could you picture? Yeah, exactly, Bear. Let's just pick Chicago, for example, okay? Let's say they put a Guy Fieri cigar lounge in a branded Guy Fieri cigar lounge in Chicago. I mean, and look, that's something you make a retailer work to get that too. You don't just hand that to a retailer, right? That would be a destination. Like, absolutely. Now suddenly you have, I like your idea. Now suddenly you have a destination. I'm in Chicago. I want to get a cigar. Why don't I go to the Guy Fieri? I want to go to Guy Fieri Lounge. Like, even though he's not there, right? There's something with that, right? It's Guy Fieri's. It's like going to one of his restaurants. This is like it's like going to Wolfgang Puck's restaurant. You never get to see Wolfgang Puck, right? But
people go to the diners, drive-ins, and dives shops. They do. They have, other than being featured on the show, have no affiliation with them, and they are destinations now.
Oh, and by the way, maybe you put an NFT behind this, and maybe bid it through an NFT to get.
Stop stepping on my other themes, man.
Okay, we'll go back to that. I didn't realize. We'll go back to that.
Stepping on my shit.
Speaking of that, I think that's kind of funny because, so I went over to Pigeon Forge a few months back with the family, and of course there's a Guy Fieri restaurant there, right?
Yep.
And I remember walking in when you go to the hostess desk, right? It's like a Dave and Buster's. There's a game area, and then right at the front door is the hostess thing, and then there's a gift shop, and then the restaurant. And I remember, she said, "Oh, it'd be about 15 minutes before you get your table ready." It was like, cool. So I walked in, and just looking around the gift shop, and of course I see the knuckle sandwich emblem all over stuff, and I thought, "Oh, that's cool. I wonder if the cigars are here." They are not. A good start might be just to put small humidors in those little shops,
little pop
where you could buy the knuckle sandwich cigars.
Encourage them to get a tobacco license and do it. Yeah, you don't have to.
That's a small thing that's easily done.
Yeah,
And
I'll be fair; they've only been 2 years into this, so maybe there are some bigger plans to do.
Again, this isn't an indictment of what they've
done. It's not an indictment.
Wrong.
We're looking to say
I'm talking about next steps.
exactly. This is what I want. Yeah, but you know how people, you know how sensitive this industry.
I understand. I'm just saying, like, that's the context of it for anyone listening.
That's what.
Like,
exactly. Yeah.
Like, oh, this isn't how like Guy Fieri has screwed up. He's been fucking huge. He's been the best thing for the industry in the last 2 years. Like, y'all can fucking fight me on this. Like, sorry, like, him being involved in the cigar industry is the biggest thing in the industry the last 2 years. And I think they built upon it really nicely this year, making him more available, to our point, right? More access, right? Having him walk around the trade show, I think was a really very positive thing too.
Yeah. And the opening party was big too, by the way. That was good.
That's what I'm saying, like more access. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, they did.
So,
give the PCA credit on that too. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
I want to iterate that too. Like we're not saying they're doing a bad job. They're doing an amazing job. We're talking about what else could they do in the future.
I feel like they're sitting on this gold mine right now.
We're pulling the ultimate faux pas, man. The what's next, the what's new, right? With us, right? So that's
our phone. Yeah, just want to say, when we say stuff like, Bear, it's like, remember when we talked about the what do you call it? When we did that show about the people who are the hottest people in the industry, we said Saka and Malillo, we're just taking them off the table, right?
Yeah.
And everyone, we got hate mail. So I'm just saying, no, we knew Saka and Malillo were already at the top of this list. That's why we put them aside that day. But we got hate mail. We got the hate mail. So
we also got to do that because we know how sensitive the Espinosa people are.
Oh, that's why. Yeah.
All right, so I told you guys we had two groupings. I just finished my El Enigma. So Ben, this is my OG grouping of cigars. So you get to pick my next cigar. So how
was it, Bear? How was it?
I enjoyed it. So I think you'll like it a lot more than some of the other offerings in his portfolio, because I know the floral Peruvian Colombian tobacco is not your shtick.
Yep.
This had the trademark George on it, man. It had some really nice floral and citrus notes on the retro and stuff, but there's this really beautiful, complex, like earthy, coffee, like kind of nutmeg Christmas thing going on underneath. It just was kind of accentuated by the floral aspect on the retro. So it didn't coat your palate, which I think is why you might like it. But I enjoyed it, man. I enjoy George's stuff, man. I enjoy his take on something. This is really interesting. It's really interesting. So Ben, old school stuff. I have a grouping of 4 cigars here. We reviewed this cigar about a year ago. This is the La Riqueza Resurrection from Pete, the box press, I guess Robusto Extra or Toro or something like that. Speaking of Toros, we have a box press Toro, of course, the #1 cigar of the year for 2022, Espinosa box press Crema. Speaking of Steve, got the Naka Tamale here. Yes, the Moisture de Saka Naka Tamale. Still not as good as the Exclusivo, but I dig the cigars.
Agree with you on that too.
And then of course an oldie but a goodie. Diamond Crown Maximus #5. Ben, what am I smoking next?
La Riqueza.
La Riqueza.
And there's a reason that I picked.
I know why you're picking it too. Yeah, I was gonna say I would have the same reason, but I don't want to give it away yet.
Me either.
Yeah.
So right. I'll let smoke that. When you're done, we want to report.
Yep.
Okay. So kind of get back on track to where we were with this, as far as so we talked about companies that have momentum going into the show. Let's talk about what people have done since that. So which company has strengthened their position after a less than ideal showing at the show? Like maybe it was like mediocre, maybe it was poor, I don't know. But for all intents and purposes, you went to the show, you weren't as impressed, or it didn't wow you, it didn't blow you away. But since then, it's like, okay, these folks are moving. There's some moving and grooving, man. Has there been anyone like that for you, Coop?
Wow. I mean, I had a little different take on that question. So
that's fine. Take it wherever you want, man.
Because originally, okay, here's how I interpreted the question. I was going to say my father came out of this show like a rock star, right? Because people didn't know what they had going in there. There was really no momentum going in there, right?
Well, I think that's kind of like where I was going, man.
Okay, but I don't want to say they had a great show. That's the difference. Okay, they had a great show with the presentation, the products they brought. if because you said mediocre, so that's why I kind of, I have to think about that one if there's some, but I have to say that the company that came out of that is my father. When people saw the 20th anniversary, the Vegas Cubanas, the La Union, I mean, I think there was some real excitement about these projects coming out, right? And it just showed me that my father was operating at a level that we talked about as a luxury brand, kind of like what Selected Tobacco, has done, and some of these other companies. So, but I would struggle right now to say if there was a company that's if you struggled at the trade show, chances are you're struggling now is what I'm saying. That's why I would kind of go, that's why it would be kind of difficult for me to answer that on any level. Someone who has struggled and got some momentum.
I think your answer is great, Coop. I mean,
I
mean, like for example, like you said, and that was my argument against your pick on Forge, right? Like going into it was like, okay, it's exciting, they're coming back. For me, answer to this question was like,
but people were already excited about them they were going to go there coming back.
But see, the answer to this question for me was Forged, because I was like, okay, they're back, cool, that's awesome. New brand, they bought Alec Bradley, awesome, cool. Matt Booth coming back for a second year. Okay, cool. And then they're bringing the Forge family of brands back. And so when I got there, I was like, oh shit, this is cool. This is really awesome. And then they have all that stuff that we talked about. So that's why for me, the answer to this question for me was Forge, which is why I pushed on you on the initial question and everything. So but I think my father is a perfectly good example of too. Yeah. I thought they came out of the cigar trade show looking like absolute champions.
Yeah. I just thought they had no momentum going into the trade show was the difference. I mean, it was just too quiet. And I was wondering, are they going to bring anything to the trade show? And then I heard rumblings about the 20th, but then there was other stuff that came out. That's why I thought Fords again. Just the fact they were coming back was like the momentum was going in. That's kind of how I differentiated it, if that makes sense.
Sure, of course.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I'll stick with my answer. Yeah, I'll just stick with my answer. Because everyone else did pretty well otherwise.
Ben?
Actually, I kind of took it the way the question, or really how Coop took it, which is where not that they did bad, but just kind of didn't have buzz going in, and then came out with a buzz. And I was thinking of my father as well, but one that I thought I'm gonna give another answer was one that, be honest, I have to thank you, Bear, for introducing us, was Serafin Nakuba.
Absolutely.
Because I literally had no idea they existed until you said, hey, we need to go by and stop and talk to them. And I left thoroughly impressed when we left that interview. And the cigars that I've sampled, man, there wasn't a damn dud in them. I didn't smoke it. It was a dud. And I don't know, it's because now that I'm aware, I'm seeing them pop up everywhere.
He wrote orders. He wrote orders because he wrote a lot of orders, this guy. Yeah.
Yes. I'm seeing shops bring them in, and I'm seeing them on social media, people smoking them and raving about them. I mean, to me, that was an awesome company that came in and really won the show. I mean, he did exactly what needed to be done. And I mean, came in small, little, very small booth, but made a massive impact, I thought. And I cannot wait to get my hands on some more of those cigars, to be honest, because most of them are right in my wheelhouse. And I know, like, history nerds like you and I are, Bear, that the stories behind these cigars are freaking awesome.
Yeah.
I love the story and we all talk about all the stories or romanticism about some of this stuff, but like the his stories they're legit. It's not some ethereal kind of thing that people are associating with this brand they're coming out with or whatever. Like, he's got historical stuff tied into every brand he's coming out with. And that drew me as well, not just how the quality of the cigars, which are fantastic, and the flavor. And most of them are in my wheelhouse, which I really appreciate, right? But the stories behind them and how we explain them all. I mean, honestly, people, if you have not seen any of our PCA videos, that one is the one you got to see, because it was my favorite one just because his passion came through through that too. I mean,
I will put the video in the link so
dude,
people.
I don't even know. I don't know about y'all, but like, I almost felt like it was like a fourth quarter pep talk, and you're down by a touchdown or something, and your coach giving you that rah-rah speech. Dude, I was like, damn, that's what I'm talking about. This is how the cigar industry should be.
Yeah.
This is how you do
Let's
it.
go.
This is it.
Let's
Let's
go.
I want boxes. How many boxes can I get? You know, I mean, that's kind of how I felt when I left there, because his passion really came through, and I think we captured it really well in that video.
Yeah,
So please go watch it.
And they weren't new releases, but they were new. They were but they were really being introduced to a bigger audience. They were kind of a kept secret down in the Tampa area. So and Bear had heard Bear. He had reached out to Bear. Jose then reached out to me right before the show saying, "You got to go see him." He's like, and the other thing that I was really impressed with Arnold, he took a very grassroots approach to everyone who went to that booth, trying to get to know everybody, right? And I really appreciated that. And it wasn't just with media people. It was I heard this from other people who visited that booth, how Arnold really just tried, and he didn't put a hard sell on anybody. It was, he was just introducing who he was, and this is what he's bringing to the table. And I think he did a fantastic job. I can't disagree with you, Ben, on this. Yeah,
I think there's a lot of parallels to like him and someone like Howard Gums, right? Like who, like I mean, from like completely two different sides of the street, mind you. But there's a lot of humility, there's a lot of conversation, there's a lot of excitement, and there's a lot of like, again, like to your point, like getting to know them as a person and them as, that kind of aspect about it. So I think that's kind of like this, maybe that's probably why I'm drawn to both of those guys. I think they have great stories, and you guys know me, I'm a sucker for it. Sucker for the story.
No, I totally agree with that, because the way I feel about, Seraphin the Cuba as how I felt about Howard Gums last year.
Yeah, so
I'm smoking that right now. I'm smoking the Black Moses right now. I'm on to that, and it's freaking fantastic. This cigar is great. So the similarities you're bringing up is 100%. I'm on board. I agree with that 100%.
I got to give Bear a lot of credit on this one too, because Howard was at the 2021 show, and that was the first time as our team we were there. We didn't go see Howard, and after that show, Bear reached out to him, right, and got to know him. Bear started smoking these cigars, and he's like, he got to know these. He put them on the show, and then we went to the booth last year, and I think we all had a very special visit at that booth. Again, very similar approach. This year I thought it was great too. Again, Ike Taylor was there, and Big Leon Cersei was there. Rachel, who also was a part of that. And I just felt they all, and I saw them, and again, I heard with other customers, they were doing the same thing, just taking a grassroots approach to things to get to know people. And a lot of times this is about relationships, this business. So when you do that type of approach, it works.
And it's real.
It's real.
It's
I mean,
real.
and you root for a guy like that. And maybe I'm not saying, and Howard's cigars are good, by the way. Howard, especially the cigars he's getting out of American Caribbean, which I've been very critical of a lot of those cigars. They're very good ones he's getting out of there.
It's good stuff. So, Erron, what about you? Anybody?
Well, I mean, look, I'm not going to take the easy way and say I agree with those two. The Seraphin de Cuba, when we were going around in the text post and I smoked it the first time, and I was like, wow, it really good. But what I'll say is, and I don't know if this is going to answer your question, but I was thinking about it when I got we were taking the segment. Part of it for me right now, and I don't remember this last year, and so maybe I'm just busy with the family and not paying attention, could be the case, but I feel like this year versus last year, there's still stuff that hasn't been shipped yet that I haven't been able to smoke. Like it to me, it's almost like an incomplete a little bit. And I say that because usually the buzz comes up post PCA when the stuff is shipped, and then you get it in the hands of the consumer, and then you start seeing it posted all over the place on social media or the websites or podcast, whatever the case may be. You got to smoke this, or have you tried this? I feel like there's an incomplete this year in a sense that there's just a lot of stuff that I saw at the PCA that I'm looking forward to smoking that I haven't gotten yet, or I haven't seen available. So it's not to say that it's less that the momentum may be there, or you kind of where we're taking this, that maybe they didn't have necessarily a bad show, but they've carried momentum forward. I think it's incomplete or to be determined, because a perfect example for me is the McAuliffe Black. Haven't had it yet. I can't find it yet. I looked for it to, I have to get a lot of my stuff online. I haven't found it yet, or haven't hunted around maybe enough.
I'll fix that. I have.
Yeah, I was gonna say,
we can fix that. Yeah,
but that was an example of one of several that, some of Rocky stuff is not. I can't. That's not.
It hasn't shipped yet. The Rockies,
right? So I mean, I know we're only 45 days out or whatever it is, but I'm giving it kind of an incomplete, because there is still stuff I know that I think people are gonna really like, that just haven't been shipped out yet, and therefore a little bit of to be determined. But I think that if we have the same conversation in a month and a half, 2 months from now, I think that I'll have a better gauge on where I would take that answer than I can today, just because I haven't smoked a lot of the stuff that I want to smoke that I know is coming out.
Well, I think there's going to be we'll probably continue this discussion one way or another on some roundtables, because we'll obviously probably bring some.
Are you guys seeing the same thing, or is it just?
The company that I thought carried some really cool, interesting momentum into the show and has actually executed it on post show is probably Oveja Negra, probably the most. So, I think that's the best. I think that's the best thing.
Yeah, they actually would be on. Yeah,
the La Madonna Negra was announced prior, and it, I believe it sold out. I believe that's what James said in the interview. I believe it sold out prior to even being there. They had it on display, but for it's an anniversary cigar, so it's a milestone moment for them. But Poison Dart, I think that was one of Erron's highly touted cigars and stuff. And
mine too. I love that.
They should. I can't believe you fucking liked it, Coop. I was shocked, dude. I just didn't think you'd like it.
Love that cigar.
I thought it was fantastic. I just didn't think you'd like. I thought it was too Brazilian.
But I like. There's Brazilians I do like. So, but this one I did too, and I said this on a couple of shows already. I'm telling you, if we advance 10 years from now, James Brown is going to be one of the elite blenders in this. He's gonna be talked about in this master blender mold. Okay, he's getting there. He's not there yet, right? But the trajectory, we're gonna be talking about this guy as one of the legends by 2033, 10 years from now.
I agree with that, and I'm also kind of wondering why he's not closer to the echelon already.
I'll tell you what. I'm gonna interrupt. You know what? I was just thinking about this when you just said that, Ben. I think one of it is. Go back to what we said about Howard G to an extent, and the personality. James is quiet. Like he's not like he's his own unique. He is who he is. I just don't.
God, he's got amazing stories, dude. Oh God, I fucking love talking to that guy.
I do too, but don't you agree? He's not like gregarious. He's not like.
Oh God, no, that's just not his personality. Yeah,
right, exactly. Yeah. So I think that, in its sense, Ben, to answer your question, I think that might be a little bit of why. He is just not maybe as talked about as much as Perdomo, because Nick's out there, Rocky's out there, take your kind of, your Jonathan Drews. I mean, you can take your pick of people that are out there front and center. He's just not that way.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I mean, he is a very much more reserved person for sure.
Yeah.
Like he doesn't have that big,
not
boisterous, gregarious.
He's not.
He's not like that.
But the products are speaking for themselves.
Yeah, it's the line from Collateral. Tom Cruise says you're one of the guys that does and doesn't talk, doesn't say and just does. That's him.
Yeah,
he reminds me more. I tell you who he reminds me more of than anybody is Dion Giolito.
That's kind of exactly what I was going to say. Is that Dion and him are very cut from a similar mold on a lot of this.
And Dion's got some great. I mean, there's some cool stories about him. I haven't had any.
I think Dion,
next
by the
level
way,
conversations.
is on. Yeah, Dion's on that trajectory too. By the way, just so you know,
Yeah,
he's close. He's probably a little further ahead than James right now, but
there's a certain reverence with Dion that everybody has. That's the next step for
Yeah.
James. That people are going to have. People are going to be talking about James's palette and his blending style. That the way they talk about Dion today. That's what's going to happen. It's
Yeah,
just going
agree.
to happen.
I think that's closer than anything right now. I mean, really. I mean, I don't know about y'all, but it seems that every year he comes, it's a next level with the cigars. He just ratchets it up a little bit every year.
yeah.
You know,
The big thing he's still got to come out with, which can be released, is that new Bishop's blend, which is, that's one of his most acclaimed brands, and now he's got a new extension to it. So I think, look, that's a cigar. It's absolutely on my radar. I want to smoke. They didn't have samples of that at the show. But
he hasn't hardly ever missed with me. Him and Hector, like their blending styles, which are completely different, by the way. Their shit just hits my palate. Like that's just fucking good. Jesus.
Yeah, I gotta see if my local shop, B&B Tobacconist, they're a black label account. I want to see if they got that Poison Dart, because I haven't had that one yet.
It's so fucking good, dude.
Yeah. Now, Dave Burke, we recorded Jukebox yesterday, and he was smoking this cigar called the Dreadnought from Atlantic, and he was raving about this cigar, right? And I got to get it. And what it was, Dave said this is an old school James Brown powerhouse blend that's so flavorful. Like, and it's in the, like, remember when he was doing like the Last Rites and things like that. And, I could see James in the last few years has kind of gotten away from that because I think he's trying to capture a bigger audience. But that's James's bread and butter. He knows how to blend a really good, strong cigar. So I'm going to get my hands on that one from Atlantic for sure, because I want to try it.
Dreadnought's good. I've had it before.
It's good. What's strange is that is not my wheelhouse.
Right.
Heavy, strong cigars I just have gravitated away from them in the past, I'd say 5 or 6 years now. But his stuff hits
because it's balanced. Because it's balanced.
It's balanced. He's just what I see him doing though. And this is why I think he's on this trajectory. He's experimenting with Cameroon. He's going to Cameroon, going with Sumatra. Now he's Pennsylvania tobacco. Well, he's been doing Pennsylvania tobacco. Now he's got the what's the one he just the Brazilian wrapper, right?
Well,
so he's starting to hit he's starting to hit a lot of different tobaccos. Connecticut, he did a few years
ago. There's this
the porcelain that fucking Connecticut he did is outstanding.
Oh, it's going to be on the Coop list this year. I'll tell you that right now. It's very high on the Coop list. Yeah.
As the Mr. Connecticut of this group, I will say porcelain is
the Robusto, and that Robusto
way up there. It's fantastic, man.
Yeah.
The stuff that he just like there's a couple, like the Salvation. I wasn't necessarily I tried the other day for the first time and it just didn't hit me, but like there's so much stuff in there. Like his portfolio is just fucking banger after banger.
You'll find it's something. There's a lot. Now he's got something for everybody in that portfolio.
Oh, absolutely.
Oh,
well, and then I think Emilio's stuff is some really underrated stuff. Like I think the Grimalkin every year is an interesting blend that he puts together. The Audiophile was really great last year. I can't wait to try this year's.
Yeah.
But no, I think that that's something that I'm certainly going to continue to pay attention to him and what they're doing, because that's just the stuff I was saying. We haven't even talked about the dissident stuff, which you guys know I'm a fan of. So like it's it's just it should.
I will have to say though, Coop, Bear, I kind of disagree with your pick, because I think they had momentum coming in too.
No,
and they maintained it.
I'm sorry. I totally jumped topics here because I never really answered the first question and I kind of bridged it. So they were the ones that kind of did the full. They've done the full tilt. They kind of built in.
I missed that part.
Because they came with La Madonna Negra. Yeah.
They kind of built in with La Madonna Negra. They fucking hit at the show. And then they've actually shipped on some of this stuff, and it's just fucking fire.
Completely agree. And Bear, Emilio, if you haven't seen Bear's interview with James talked about how Emilio it's a tougher project for him because that's a completely different concept brand he's trying to build right now, and he knows that one's going to take time. And I think he's patient with that one. I think it's starting to finally. I think since he's put his own spin on it, it's starting to click now more. So So I think Emilio is something to really watch too.
And I think the perennial company that this has now been 2 years in a row that we've seen them again lead in, hit, and then kind of delivered on the backside too has been United.
Oh yeah.
And United and Select Tobacco. I know they're trying to establish to keep it, keep it separate but the same and stuff like that. But I still kind of lump those guys together. And I'm sorry, Oliver, I'm not trying to step on your marketing strategies or anything like that. But I think both those companies, both together and separate, have really done a really good job of really kind of building into the show, kidding on the show, and then kind of delivering. I thought they had a fantastic year last year, and I think we're starting to see the beginnings of a really great year for them as well too.
Yeah.
To answer the question that I didn't answer, which was the second one, I'll say the company that I thought completely has delivered above and beyond. And this isn't to say like this was, again, right, this wasn't to say like he was dog shit going into the show or anything like that, but it would just seem like, oh, he's continuing to build the brand. He's got some established. It's Mickey Peg and All Saints, man. Like
I actually was thinking about that one too. Yeah, I actually thought about that one too.
Again, I'm not trying to be insulting to Mickey. I think he's building a brand. It's hard work, and so I think kind of going into this year, it was kind of the third year. And for him, it was kind of a little underwhelming. He was bringing back Solamente, which, apparently was the fucking hit among a lot of people around the room. And I smoked it. I thought it was fucking, fantastic too and everything. But like, it was like, okay, cool. He's continuing to build a brand. Like it's a fucking hard job. Right. Yeah. And I'm like, and it wasn't like, oh God, like, Mickey's got this and this coming out. It wasn't that for him. And I don't think that's unfair.
Yeah.
But post show, obviously, with the announcement with McAuliffe, holy crap, man.
We drew huge numbers. That show drew huge numbers when Aaron and I had him on. I'm just telling you, there was a lot for that company. And it wasn't like all the McAuliffe ambassadors either. Guys, I looked at the demographics. It was a big audience was very interested in that show. So, and I look at that, and that's always it's not the ultimate barometer, but it gives you a good little pulse, of what's going on.
So what a great move for All Saints, I think. And not to say nothing of what it will do for McAuliffe too. I think they did a great job at the show and stuff too. But
I did. Yeah. McAuliffe did yeah.
That's kind of like I've kind of backtracked all my answers and kind of lumped it in there. So those are kind of some of my thoughts. So, all right. So wanted to kind of dive into, in the interest of time. So I had these probably unanswerable questions. We already hit on the Espinosa Guy Fieri piece. So here's one, a company that didn't get talked about at the show because they weren't there, but honestly hasn't been talked about very much. And if if I had posed this question, 2 years ago, you guys would have thought I was fucking crazy, right? Is Davidoff ever coming back?
I'll answer it.
Question. Go, please. Go.
I think they do. I think they do. I think they do.
2024 or later?
I'm going to say potentially 2024, but they may not come back with Davidoff. They may come back with the non-Davidoff stuff.
Like Camacho or Avo or something like that?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
I think that's what I think. And I think that brand can use, those brands can use the boost at the trade show. Davidoff's a different animal because of the appointed merchant model, where you have to, basically, for folks who aren't familiar with that, appointed merchants have to buy X number of product every year anyway. So it really doesn't matter if they go to the trade show or not. Right. So that's the white label and the black label stuff we're talking about, Winston Churchill. But I do think they may come back. Things change. Maybe people's opinions change in the company. Davidoff's still a global brand. And maybe they're seeing, looking on the outside in, why isn't a global brand like Davidoff at this premier event? So, but maybe they don't come back. Like maybe they do like what Ford's, they come back with those brands next year. So I'm not ruling that out.
I agree and disagree with that. Okay. I think Davidoff needs a PCA show more than the PCA show needs Davidoff. Because from what I keep seeing and hearing, Davidoff is losing market share a lot. So, I mean, a lot of Davidoff lounges are turning to something else, or some appointed merchants are becoming not appointed merchants by their but because they're selling Davidoff no. You know, I mean, Avo and Camacho is floundering now. You know, they don't have the pull they used to have, you know. And I mean, some of it's almost self-inflicted with
Some
kinda,
of it.
okay, yeah.
About
I'd say
all of it.
okay, maybe 85%. Let's go with 85%. But like they're coming out with some cigars that aren't that good, you know, and every time they come out with a limited edition Davidoff, it's getting more and more and more expensive, and they're not as good as they used to be, you know. I mean, and I'll be honest, this one was a huge pet peeve of mine. How they handled the Kellners and Eladio Diaz leaving is just left a sour taste in my mouth. I'll be totally honest.
Yeah.
I didn't like it. I thought that was a really shitty thing to do, how they handled that. So will they come back? I think they do. I think they do. I agree with Coop on that. It needs to be for them. It needs to be sooner than later. You know, I mean,
Yeah.
I think they come back. Altadis is probably gonna, I think, gonna come back. We got the Drew Estate. I think it's just a natural progression for them to come back. I think too, I don't want to say there's unknown about Davidoff, but I think Ben, you might have mentioned or Coop, the lounges, like I know the ambassador went from Davidoff to El Septimo, right? I mean, you've got brands that are willing to spend some money and to get themselves out there, and they're cannibalizing on some of the Davidoff space. And I think they've got to, but I do think though, if they come back, I think it'll be, it won't take long for them to get back to where they were. I think that they carry such a strong brand that I think it's not like it's going to take several years for them to get back to their footing. I think if they get back, they've got to reinvigorate the Avo and the Camacho. I think those things are just floundering. I think they're back 2024 in some capacity.
So here's my question. So 2025 is what Jay posed in the chat, that he thinks that there's a possibility for 25, right? My question is, at 2025, or let's say it's 2026 or beyond, at that point, is it too late?
No,
it's never too late.
I don't think this is a crisis situation, is my answer. Okay. Because again, I look at Davidoff. Okay. They are having some lumps in the US with the Davidoff brand, but they're still a global brand. They're a monster in Asia and Europe right now. I'm just saying that. I do think they have some real. I think they made a mistake with Camacho and they made a good move, right? So they did that whole dojo community with Camacho. I thought it was a brilliant idea, but they haven't done anything else outside that dojo community right now. And I think that's a problem. I think that's a problem.
I think it's a huge problem. They're not investing in their resources. They have three, off the top of my head, actually, they have 4 incredible brand ambassadors, people who work behind the brand off the top of my head. And I know I'm missing people, but Jack Heyer moves from Drew Estate over to Camacho. He did a great job for Drew Estate. I don't think there's any question behind that.
Right.
And that's a guy who understands social media. He understands trends. He understands ambassadorship. He gets it. Lana has been there for a long time. She's fantastic. She's a fantastic representation of the brand.
I agree. She's great.
Eddie Guerra did things at Gurkha and Altadis that made him. I mean, a couple years ago, Coop, we were saying that Eddie's going to fucking rule the world, and he might very well come to that at some point. But they got to give him resources. They got to give him something to do, because they're like, I haven't seen him doing anything. Not because I think it's not. I'm not. Please, I'm not talking shit about Eddie, because he's fantastic. I think they're not giving. I don't think they're giving him the resources. And George Ramey from Camacho, who also is one of these guys that just spices up the room when he walks into it, and it's just been radio fucking silence because they're not giving him resources.
Yeah, and again, I see they go all in. Again, I'm not saying this is sour grapes on the dojo guys. They've done a great job with that community. And look, Coop doesn't have a community or something. This is not, but they need to somehow all right, you've got this base in the dojo community. You need to kind of figure out what you're going to do, because there's a lot of people who aren't a part of that community, and they're not reaching those people. Avo's been installed for a couple of years now. And they need to figure out what they're going to do with Avo. Something needs to be done. That brand is completely, and that's an iconic brand. I've had a great affinity with that brand, but something is stalled with that brand right now. I don't think the season's release has gotten people doing handstands over these spring and summer cigars, right? So I think they need to do something with that. And to Ben and Aaron's points, they have to figure out they have issues. There are issues with the appointed merchants right now, and they have to solve that piece. That's a big piece. They can't, because I don't think necessarily this is a runaway, we're losing huge amounts of market share, but I think there is some erosion, and that's got to be a concern. That's in this market, that's got to be a concern. So I think they have to fix that as well.
So yeah, I think there's some like I said, this is probably unanswerable questions.
Yeah.
These are just unanswered questions
Yeah.
about Davidoff going into the future and everything like that. They have the fucking weapons, man. That's the thing.
Davidoff needs a core line. Davidoff needs a core line. They haven't done one in 6 years.
Yeah.
They need a core line of Davidoff. Yeah.
So all right. So next question. This was just my observation, and y'all can feel free to disagree with me. I think they had a great show. I think they had great products. So I'm not trying to qualify it. But why didn't more people care about Hoya's return? And will Drew Estate's return in the spring? Will it return to be? Will it bring back to their satisfaction?
I remember I saw that question. I don't know why you thought that was my question. That booth was pretty busy. Pretty busy. So
I haven't heard many people outside of this group talk about it, which I think is sad.
They had a great show, in my opinion, too. You're right.
I think they had a great show, and I think they have great products.
I think the one thing that they did, Bear, that was a mistake, is the Cinco and Cinco should have been announced about a month before the show, not a couple of days before the show. That 55. That should have been announced a month ago.
That's a fantastic cigar, by the way.
Well, it was, yeah. Well, I know we're going to talk. Yeah, this is going to be a monster for them, right? So I think my question is, because that's what you're going to build the whole thing around, is that 55 story. But you're right. I think if that 55 cigar had gotten out, because a lot of people didn't even know about that cigar, because it was like, I was already in Vegas when I got the press release for that. So I was already in Vegas when that came out. Like, it was the day before the show was opening, maybe 2 days before it opened. So there was definitely momentum that you could have had. Like, again, we go back to what McAuliffe did with the black, like having that leadway in there. I think they could have done that. Now, also, I'll say Drew Estate promoted these cigars for them too, so it's not like Drew Estate didn't promote them. But yeah, that was because, again, the booth was busy though. The booth was very busy when we were there.
I'm glad. Like I said, I'm hoping I'm right, and maybe I'm just not tuned into it.
Right.
But that's just been my observation, is that to me, like, I thought, like, I was fucking stoked when Juan told us at the Great Smoke that they were returning, and I was so excited when we got by the booth and got to talk to them. I was
great
excited
team,
about the new product.
They have a great team. They have a great team too. By the way.
I thought for me they were one of the young kind of unsung heroes of the show. But
Absolutely.
Since then, it's just kind of been a little quiet, and I'm just like, why weren't more people talking about this? And
because they didn't have the momentum with the new product, and the new product hasn't shipped yet. I think
it goes back. See, that's exactly what I said was where I gave my incomplete. I think that Hoya falls into that boat of stuff's not shipped, or there hasn't been the groundswell buzz like there was coming off of last year when it seemed like more product was out on the market. I think, again, 2 months from now, whatever, I'm hoping that it will be more front and center. I just think it's an incomplete, like I gave kind of on my last comment. I think they fall into that exact scenario of the reasons why, like Coop talked about either the marketing or the lack of product or whatever the case may be. I just don't think there's the hype yet, or the buzz that maybe will come in the next 45 days, whatever.
Cool. All right. So will Drew, okay, second part of this question was, will Drew Estates return to the show be to their satisfaction, meaning Drew Estates?
Yes.
Okay.
I won't even hesitate on that.
Yeah, they're
Absolutely. They're not gonna go in with 1 foot out.
Yeah,
They're gonna go all in.
they're going all. They have the resources. They'll be all in.
They'll be all in.
They'll come out strong.
Well, that's just Drew Estate's modus operandi.
Right.
I mean,
Exactly.
what they do.
Okay. So here's an interesting question that I think is might be the topic for the night. I wanted to stick it somewhere in the middle because I thought it was interesting. We're kind of in the midst of seeing the Anarchy NFT blow up once again. I mean, we're talking about multi-thousands of dollars. Congratulations to our good friend Jay Davis winning a Anarchy NFT. So we'll at least have access to at least seeing these things in the wild, which would be kind of cool.
He wants to give us free, if he wants to give us free samples of the pale horses, we won't turn him down.
I'm up for Jay. I'm all about free samples, by the way.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what we're here. That's what we're here for. But it brings about. I mean, I thought it was honestly, I thought it was comical, Coop, when we were sitting there we had Les Mann, Pete Johnson, and Abe DeBabna on the show. And they were worried and nervous, and I was just like, I thought it was comical, and I didn't make it like, I didn't think it was like fake humility or genuine insincerity. Like, I thought they were being completely sincere, which was just shocking to me that they were nervous about it. I think they knew they put something good together. I think they had confidence in what they put together, but they just didn't know what the market was going to do. And I was like, man, are these guys nuts? Like, this is going to fucking be insane, and it has been. I mean. So here's the question, right? It's how many more rides can a company ride the NFT train? Now, I really want to see, here's my little just kind of intro to it. Okay, this is kind of the third one. And I really feel kind of bad for United because and Selected Tobacco, because they kind of cut the trail on this. They were the first ones to do it, to try it out and everything. And again, Coop and I still don't know what the fucking NFT is, even though we've been explained to it half a dozen times. I think I'm almost there, but not quite. But that being said, like, they came to market first with it, and I think it was a good thing for them. I don't think it was a bust by any stretch.
And they donated the money to Cigar Rights of the World too. So yeah, like they tried to do a money grab with that either.
Yeah,
and I'm not faulting anyone for doing a money grab. Don't get me wrong, but I'm just saying they had a good reason for doing that too.
Yeah, and I thought that, I mean, but that's what's funny about history, right? Innovators, right. Sometimes miss, right? Sometimes they hit, sometimes they miss because they're the first to it. And I think there was just a lot of, this was a good solid 2.5-3 years prior to La Flor Dominicana. Basically, cracking the code, so to speak, a little bit with it, and blowing it up. But I would love to see, kind of, not redemption makes it sound like it was a bust. It wasn't. Like, again, they were cutting the trail. It was something new, something different. I'd love to see United get another crack at it. But I basically answered the second part to this question. But the first part of the question is, how many more rides can a company ride the NFT train? So, like, Can this happen? Can this happen one more time, 2 more times, an infinite amount of times?
It's going to happen
more
again.
Times. Several more times.
You don't even get
to the degree and success that it's been with the last 2.
It depends who does it, right?
Right.
Okay. So the next one, I predict it might be the next one would be My Father. That would be a great one to do the next one. But if you have somebody like My Father, Fuente, or Padron do this, it's going to be bigger than what we've seen so far. No doubt.
Yeah.
And seeing how it worked for LFD and now Tatawahe, why not? Why not do it? Who you'd be nuts to not do it at this point?
And I have one other company that I put in there, and I could see them grabbing onto this because they tend to do this sometimes, is General. In particular, I could see them doing it with the Cohiba brand. They have the resources. They have the market.
Doing it with like the Spectre or something.
maybe something beyond the specter, yeah, something, but that's the one brand I think that they can do that with, where they can make a like serious money with this, okay? Because Cohiba has a brand recognition that is much bigger, and this is not knocking LFD or Tatawahe. Cohiba has, because of that, even that U.S. brand has far-reaching implications, because it's of that name. So I can absolutely see, and General's got the resources to do, because Ben just said it right. There's some companies that would, I think Fuente would have to do some work if they're going to get into the NFT game. They could certainly produce the product, but they're going to have to, in terms of engagement, I think that it's something they don't normally, it's not the way they normally engage. So I think they'd have to kind of change a little bit of their mindset, but they certainly could produce a collection that would get value. But I think they need to do a little work, like maybe partner with someone who's like an Abe, who's a visionary with this stuff.
We also got to not forget Placencia did something similar too.
Yeah.
Not the same, but they did NFT. What about 4 years ago? 4 years ago?
They did something with that. Yeah, I forgot about that one.
Yeah. It wasn't the same. It wasn't about the cigars, but it was like you owned it was like a whole thing. Like you owned the artwork, which
that's kind of what United did. Yeah.
Yeah. Kind of. That's kind of how NFTs, came about, was buying digital artwork that you own exclusive rights to or whatever. Was kind of the same thing. I remember, if y'all remember it, but it was like you basically got a virtual cigar with a virtual box art and the box and artwork, and it was like a big collaborative thing.
But I think United still beat them the market with it. I think United was still before that.
Yeah. They were.
Yeah.
Then Placencia did it. Then LFD
piggybacked right off of it. Yeah.
But Placencia really didn't promote that well either. That was the other thing I'll say. They didn't promote that program very well.
No, like, there was also no physical cigar with that either.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I think
LFD changed the game with a physical cigar. That's what they changed.
Yeah. LFD is definitely the pioneer on this. They did something that now was going to be copied, I think, several times.
Yep.
And that's honestly where they lost me, right? So like Oliver explained to me what an NFT was when they did it, right? And I was like, okay, I think I got it. So that's cool. It's different, unique, and obviously I saw NFT shit popping up everywhere after that, outside of the industry. And then LFD announces it, and I'm like, oh, so they're going to get in on this now. I'm like, oh, this is interesting. Wait, there's a physical, tangible product now. Wait, I thought this was a non-tangible product that you were supposed that's what an NFT was. So like that's where they lost me all over again. So that's why I'm
this is kind of it, because I think this is a little beyond the NFT at this point too. This is kind of like, and I use the term personal seat license, like to put a season ticket. That's what these programs, LFD and now the Tatawahe, want to really more about. And you bid on it, and then you get these nice tchotchkes, but then you certainly have this product that you can now you've earned the right to
$5,000 DuPont reduced to the word tchotchke. Jesus, Coop, fuck me, man. Damn, dude.
I don't know. I didn't have a better word. All right, you have this collection. I mean, it's like I said, it's amazing.
Yeah, no, it's
and look, I love Pete, but I think Pete needed Abe with this to make it work. And I think Abe needed a product, and Pete could deliver that product. So it was like it was a great marriage. Yeah. You know what I mean? They needed each other to make it work. And then you add to it with DuPont and Quality Importers coming into the game too. And Quality Importers, Michael Giordano really understands NFTs. He's really into it as well. So, this again, you have someone who actually he has a good understanding of the NFT market, Michael Giordano.
Yeah, what's weird is I mean, like we said, LFD has done it differently than any other that I'm aware of. Anything is so different than what NFTs really are, right? Because NFT is non-fungible token, and it's almost like a cryptocurrency or something, right? Like you own something that's not tangible. It's a non-tangible good.
That was my understanding of it. Yeah.
Right. So how LFD has got it, it's like, what is the non-tangible thing that you have? I guess it's a I don't know. It's I don't understand how NFT applies to the cigar exclusive rights to a cigar thing. Like, so what non-tangible thing were you bidding on to get the rights? Is it a rights thing, like a certificate or something that you can only get this cigar, but the NFT is not the cigar, it's the actual contract or certificate, or I don't understand how they both have set this up, because it's outside the original realm of what an NFT is. So it's kind of weird. So I don't exactly know what NFT you're buying with LFD and Tatuaje. You know, you get the cigars because you own that NFT, but what is the NFT that you bid on and bought? What is that? That's what I'm confused on.
Yeah.
I agree. By the way, I agree with you 100% on that. I'm not even gonna try to answer it. I agree. That's been one of my. I still have that question. That's why I said when I say I don't understand this, that's exactly where it comes from.
Nielsen, do you have
But
any
that's
other
why-
thoughts before I move
No,
on to the next question?
I think it's where the market, I think, is still the idea that the NFT market is still the knowledge behind it, like people still can't comprehend it, like what we're talking about now, like kind of the unknown. I think the ability to replicate and keep doing it, I think the NFT market is still in its infancies in a lot of ways. So therefore, that's going to translate to be able to be replicated or piggyback off. If someone did it, they're going to learn what was effective by LFD and by Tatuaje, what went well, maybe what would they tweak, and the next person to do it's going to do it a little bit better. So I think there's going to be iterations, and I think it's going to continue. So how it's reusable or that, I don't really understand the NFT market well enough either, but I think it's going to be, I don't think it's not jump the shark, I think was maybe the question.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think it is. I just think it's going to keep going as long as it's making the companies money, but also the retailer gets their ROI. That's the biggest thing, right? So you bid on this massive amount of money to get this limited edition cigar that only you can sell. You get enough of it to recoup back plus profit of what you bid. So there's going to be a tipping point somewhere in there, but I think there's still a lot of room for a lot of companies to make money, good money, doing this.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think Fuente and Padron would be poised to do it with the Fuente and Padron cigar. I think that'd be fucking killer.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, they're not going to do it, right? Because
they can't. I'm just saying now, but like that would have been a really good way to go about it, because I think there's still some questions about like who's actually going to get the cigar, like how many are them actually going to be manufactured, how many of us are actually ever going to get the chance to smoke.
They'll do something like if they did it, they would team with LA Blue or maybe they do it with the Opus 30th, right? That's something you maybe could do.
Well, the only. I said Fuente and Padron because that I think would generate enough buzz to drive up the NFT bids, right? But we're talking about two of the most old school companies in the industry.
Right. That's why I kind of have my doubt. Yeah.
They can't even post to damn social media. So were they even attempt an NFT? Probably not. Let's be honest. But if they did, they would break the records, I think.
You know who the company who's primed for this, and it's because of the person heading up a lot of the innovative projects, and he's thinking outside the box so much, is Drew Newman with JC Newman.
That would work.
Like,
that would work.
Drew's first of all, I'm not talking poorly about his father or uncle, but Drew is incredibly bright. And he has changed up so much about that company in such a short time, and the stuff and the projects that they brought to the booth this year, the Neiman team up, the NBA All-Star Humidor, like the Lego set, which I got to get my hands on that. But like they're, I mean, that's some like really cool innovative shit that like talk about old school company, man. I mean, bringing them into the new age. I mean, he's got the skill set, the business know-how, and the savvy. I think that they could pull it off with it.
True estate though too. I mean, Jonathan Drew.
Oh fuck yeah, dude.
I mean,
God, that's
and I already thought of a cigar that they can do it with, and it's the elusive Liga Privada Connecticut that never got released, that was out there on safaris. That's the one I would do it with if I was them. Yeah.
All right. So next question. All right. So it's basically like a year later. It kind of started at the very beginning of November. So I realize I'm a couple months early on the anniversary of this. but it's been about a year, right, since the famed Crown Heads, Ace Prime, now Luciano cigar breakup, right? So, okay, I like elephant in the room. It started off really bad. Like there was stuff getting thrown on both sides. It was not good, right? It was the equivalent. I mean, when you say bad breakup, I think it's kind of an understatement, right? But 1 year later, at the trade show, my question is it clean now? Is it a clean breakup now? 1 year later.
All right. Look, time heals everything, right? So I think the longer we get away from it, I will say the more out of sight, out of mind, whatever you want to say, but I would say no. I think that there was, I don't want to say uneasiness, but there was a sense of like, something's rotten in Denmark still. I just don't think that I think there's too much bad blood. I think there's still too much animosity. I don't think.
I don't think they're going to share a dinner anytime soon. I'm not saying
but
that.
I don't think. Look, I think it depends too the audience that you're talking about with it, right? I mean, I think the average. I'll speak to the average consumer. No one really fucking knows what was going on. No one really knew. They just, it's another two people part ways and is what it is. Now, if you talk to people that are inside the industry or people that know a little bit more, I'm going to say no. I think there's still where there's smoke, there's fire. I think there's still some stuff to be kind of put behind. So is it clean? I'm going to say no. But I think, like I said, time heals everything and eventually it goes away and they all kind of go there. They stay to their core competency and life moves on. But I still think that there's still some stuff that's out there that's still being, like I said at the beginning, we all love the rumor gossip mill, the stuff that's going on. I think there's still talk at the water cooler about that breakup and who's to blame or what happened or whatever the case may be.
See, I disagree, but I want to hear from the other guys too, because I want to chime in on this. Coop, Ben.
You better go first.
All right, yeah, I'll go first. So on the surface, we visited both booths at the trade show, and I really didn't see. The only thing that I saw interesting, okay, so I didn't really. I got Luciano has got his own network now. He's built his own brands, and I'm afraid my phone's gonna blow up on anything I say right now. But okay, he did. He's gone and he's done his thing, and when we went to that booth, there was nothing really about Crown Heads bad blood spilling over, and I doubt anyone who went to that booth saw that. Crown Heads, it was the same. The only difference I saw that was a little bit interesting was the presence of Pichardo in the Crown Heads booth, but I didn't see people making a big deal about that either. But Erron made a point. Where there's smoke, there's fire. We know there was some serious arrows being thrown by both sides. Have we heard the last of this? I don't know. Like there's stuff. There may be things behind. There may be dirty laundry behind the scenes we don't know yet that may get aired at some point. I don't know that, right? I do know that it was business as usual for both of them, and for the most part, it seemed like that both had gone their separate ways.
Okay,
but I have that. Yeah.
Okay, but let me ask you this: what did you expect? What are they going to sit there and have a picture of each other in their booths and have throwing darts at it? I mean, they're business professionals. They're not going to.
I was surprised that most of the media. I was surprised most of the media didn't make a point about Pichardo being in the booth with Crown Heads. I was a little surprised about that one, right?
But I didn't expect it that, but I just felt like I don't know.
That was the only. But it wasn't a big deal. Well, again, they're working with him. He's producing some of their cigars still, right? So I get it.
Maybe it's my own perception, right? Of just gee, I wonder what maybe it's my own voice and it wasn't a big deal. It's no longer a big deal. And I hope that's the case, right? I mean, you got to move on, but I don't know. I just think there was, to your point, there were so many arrows and it got nasty.
Yeah.
That I know I'm not, how do I put this without, there's certain personalities that don't let things go very easily.
Yes. And there's on both sides with that.
Right. Right. So to your point, is it the last who I don't know, but I don't know. Time will tell.
Time's gonna tell. Like I said, the arrows I don't think are getting slung publicly anymore, which is a good thing, by the way. And just I've said this on a couple of shows. We kind of, as far as using our show's platforms on Coop, we absolutely did not allow the Coop platform to be used for those arrows to be thrown.
Right.
And both parties wanted to come on our show, by the way. We turned down Pichardo as well. And because again, there was a reason why they were trying, and we just said we want to be Switzerland in this at this point. But look, I don't know if this, maybe something goes to court. I don't know. Hopefully, I don't know if anything's been settled either. Because some of the arrows that were thrown were pretty,
Yes,
bloody is what I'm saying. So I don't know how that just disappears is what I'm saying. But at this point, at least on the surface, they were going about their separate ways with that. But does this resurface? I don't think we'll see a public feud resurface anytime soon.
Lord, I can't disagree with y'all more. Be
Okay.
honest. This is my personal observations. For what I saw at Crown Heads, it seems like they've moved on, right? They've redone what they needed to do, and they just seem to be moving on pretty much, right?
Mm-hmm.
Luciano cannot do it. I mean, he's got to go on shows and talk about everybody else and stuff, and it's freaking ridiculous. But the biggest thing was seeing the delay Turkish is the Istanbul cigar. Like, how the hell is that not, just kind of a fuck you to Crown Heads the year before the Oscar cigar comes out, the Bosphorus, right? Because that's the Oscar's heritage, right? They're Turkish.
Yeah.
Right. And then all of a sudden the breakup happens and boom, Istanbul cigar. That's not a damn coincidence. No way you could tell me that that's a coincidence or that wasn't a work or bullshit. No way. He can't let it go, man. Can't let it go. It's got to be the center of attention. Got to be the focus of everything. So I think Crown Heads is trying to just move on. Luciano can't. Personal opinion. That's just the way I see it.
I think I'm somewhere in the middle. I think that like at Crown Heads, like for example, I think to Ben, your point, I agree with that. Like I think it was kind of a moved on scenario. The Pichardo presence was interesting. I think it's really great because I think Mel Diaz specifically, that project was such a monster for them, for Crown Heads specifically, and the fact that they've been able to continue that and continue it in its authentic state rather. Whereas like something like Le Patissier, for example, they moved over to a different factory and it's kind of been reborn with a new identity, so to speak. Not a new identity. That's not right. But like, you know what I'm talking about. So from a Crowned Heads perspective, I think it's definitely moved on. I think what Luciano Cigars is trying to do is such a completely different model than what they were doing before. Yes, you could kind of argue that it's kind of been expanded upon, right? Like they had the strategic partnership with Crowned Heads, had this kind of bond and everything, and they kind of built up their brands together over the last couple of years. But from a clean standpoint, like I think that they're like, if you look at them from just the ocular lens of looking at them from two separate standpoints, like I think they're both trying to build their business away from that, for whatever reason. So not for whatever reason, but for the reasons and everything. So I think all of you guys make completely valid points that I think are pretty accurate. But yeah, I think that time, to Aaron's initial point, I think time does heal everything. Like I said, I don't ever think these guys will ever share a dinner together again, or anything like that. But who knows, man? Who knows? So, I mean, talk about a great redemption story if that ever happened. But no, I think that a year later, it's certainly a lot cleaner than it was. I think I think this conversation would have been super interesting, and a lot more, a lot more lively, if they had last year, like the trade show moving to the spring this year, if that had happened last year. If we had a trade show in March or April of 2023.
Well, TPE, there was TPE and they were both there.
Right. Well, I wasn't
So-
there, so I can't really comment.
Yeah,
about
there was.
that.
So, and we heard stories coming out of it. We won't go there.
I think, yeah. Well, again, to my point, I think it would have been a completely different story.
Yeah.
I think it would have been a completely different story.
I have a question. All right. So on that note, and we can move on after this question, but do you think that if they were given the forum or asked the question directly, to your point, Coop, of like, we're playing Switzerland and we're not going to go down the rabbit hole with this conversation, but if said media site allowed it, I think, in my opinion, could be wrong, both would absolutely jump at the opportunity to talk about the other one.
I think John's made it pretty clear that he's done.
I think that if there's stuff going on behind the scenes legally, that would be a bad move for them to do that. And I'm not saying it is or isn't, but if one is thinking legal action, the best thing for them to do is not do that. But like I said, we were offered Pichardo and we turned it down.
Yeah.
So and I think it was the right call too, to do that. I don't regret that for a second. Maybe we'll have Pichardo on someday to talk about what he's doing as a blender, but I didn't want to. But the timing was very bad for that. So and the same thing, but other shows put Luciano on, and that's their business. We just chose not to go down that road at the time. We did interview him at the trade show. The one thing that's different, but I want to say one thing about the Luciano model. I think his company's doing. Remember when Christian Aroa went CLE 10 years ago?
It's the same. It's the
It's
same.
It's this model of ambassadors and partnerships, which is what Christian did originally with the Agahoyo brands, the Grace Soto Longo brands, the Pure Soul brands, and then it kind of streamlined a bit. And because I don't know if we'll have to see if this model works for Luciano. Give it time and let's see, is what I'll say.
Yeah, I mean, because
I don't know the answer to that, but it didn't really work for Christian when it happened.
We had a great conversation with Frank, and that's Foreign Affairs, his brand, that he's launching in partnership with that.
Yeah.
I haven't had the Istanbul yet, but the other delay cigar or delay, excuse me, it's delay, pronounced delay. The other delay cigar is fantastic. I really enjoyed it.
Yep. I will tell you that Delay does business with Crown Heads in Europe. Just
nice lighter Coop. I wish I had one.
Joe
You
Grow.
do have one. It's right here.
That's right. Yeah, there it is. Thanks, Ben. Let me make sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
I rescued it for you so you would have it again.
Next year.
Yeah.
All right. So moving on. Last question for this section here. So, Padron has come up a couple of times in discussion tonight. Okay. So we're talking about business models with specific to we talked a lot about business models, including the last two companies, Crown Heads and Luciano, and their different aspects of it, and how, Tatuaje and other companies, but we've mentioned Padron a couple of times tonight. So Padron has this interesting business model. And when I say interesting, it's incredibly unique. They don't have reps. They don't have brokers. So it's a unique business model because there's not really anyone else that does it like them. So is Padron's business model impossible or improbable to replicate?
Improbable, not impossible.
Probably.
Well,
I don't see anybody. Who else could do this? I mean,
There's
only
two
Padron could do it.
There's only two companies I've seen that tried to do it, really smaller companies. Warp did it, but now they're going to brokers. And Skip.
But the overarching, I would say issue, but the overarching reason is look at the product that Padron has versus anyone else. I mean, I'm sorry. It's just, in my opinion, it's just different, right? I mean, it's a different product by way of brand and legacy and the product they put out. That model works for them. I don't know that it could work to well, let me put it this way. So Coop, you mentioned too that Warp is changing and Skip. Yes, but it could never get to the
Skip gives
level.
us samples, just saying.
Oh, well, Skip, you're the best. You're the best. The best.
Oh, Skip is, but yeah, I think
But
yeah.
my point is, you couldn't get it to that scale.
Roma Craft's not exactly the same. Okay, they don't have reps. Yes, you do have to call an order, but they have people going out, like especially Mike Rosales goes out and does events all the time. When's the last time you've ever heard of a Padron event?
George
Or
does,
or Padron having anybody?
he does events, but I mean, George probably does. If he does 4 events a year, that's a lot.
Right. Mike does that in a month.
They do have a Mike. You're right. Padron doesn't have a Mike Rosales. You're 100% right.
Well, and John D. Oliver recently, departed the Roma Craft, but he was doing that. He was a rep, so to speak. So I kind of disagree on the Roma Craft piece, but
they don't have a guy calling into. They don't have a guy going and visiting an account on a.
They don't have reps or a brokerage.
I want to pose a question because I think Erron brings up a really good point of discussion, right? Like that Padron is on this. And I don't want to put words in your mouth, Erron, so correct me if I'm wrong, but Padron is on a pedestal, right? They're on this echelon that isn't matched by anybody else, right? Am I rephrasing your words correct? Okay.
That's correct.
So do you really think, Erron, I'm going to ask you this question. Do you really think that Fuente and my father are that far behind?
They need reps. I still think they need reps.
You think Fuente needs reps? Really?
Yes.
Yeah, I do too. 100%.
I do too. Yeah.
Okay.
Fuente makes a lot of core products that aren't the sexy products.
Correct. That's what I'm going to say too.
And they're very concerned about their positions in the humidor, their placement in the humidor. Merchandising is a big part of what they do, those reps. It's not necessarily about selling Opus X to these accounts, right? It's about they want to obviously see that the accounts have a worthy of carrying Opus X, but I do think that they need reps, because they have a lot of core products that they do, and they don't have Fuente actually doesn't have reps. They use the JC Newman team to do that. They rely on JC Newman's sales source to do that.
True, but it's the same concept. But also there's a huge difference between those two companies. There's a lot of releases all during the year for Fuente. What is Padron puts out like 1 cigar a year, maybe 2 if there's a limited coming out.
But the Fuente stuff that's all limited is like, it's impossible to get it. Right? You're gonna get 1 box, right? But I know what you're saying. I hear what you're saying.
But it's not just that. Like they have them spread out through the year, right? You get, and there's different opuses now, right? So I mean, you got the Oscuro regular opus
up there.
Then you got, then there's the boxes like, you got the Anejos come out at certain times of the year. The
Angel's Envy.
Angel's Envy. You have now Casa Fuente. You got
Angel Share. Angel's Envy is a bourbon.
I know what you meant. But you got the Divine Inspiration that's a limited comes out. It just came out, right? And it's something boom, boom, boom coming, right? So and you're right. They care about how their product is placed in the humidor. Not only that, but you get an order, you also get, ashtrays and, cigar cutters and lighters, and you get, cold cigar cases, all kinds of stuff too, on top of that too. So their model's different from Padron. Padron, basically they come out with one maybe core line, a new, anniversary, right? And maybe another limited to celebrate somebody's birthday. That's it. That's all. So you don't need a rep to push that. That shit sells itself, right? But it's because of what Erron said. They've been putting out quality, amazing cigars for freaking decades, for the longest time, right? They were pre-cigar boom out there doing it. Fuente was too, but they've been doing it from the beginning. And now they've gotten such a stature with their scores they get a Cigar Aficionado and on the top 25 list constantly. They're sought after, but their limiteds are limited, but they're sought after. They're quality cigars, but not only they're limited, but they're also available. You can go to a Padron dealer and find their limiteds out there, right?
Yeah, that's the
They're
difference.
Right. It's just they're not like, oh, they're only out
Yeah.
once a year, and when they're gone, they're gone. No. You can usually find the limiteds, no problem.
Right.
In smaller quantities, obviously, but you can find them when you go to a good shop that carries Padron.
Yeah.
It's just apples and oranges kind of a thing a little bit.
Fuente needs more account. Like, I think Fuente is more account management. Okay. Because of all the things you said, right? So that's why they don't have their own sales force. They use the JC Newman team that's going into accounts already, and they rely on the JC Newman team to do this account management piece. They don't open new accounts. Fuente doesn't open new accounts at the show. That's a big difference, but you need account management. And I'm sure at some point there's new accounts that are opened, right? And it's just, they don't advertise it, but I'm sure it happens. So, there's a lot. And like I said, when a lot of stuff you have to qualify for to get in Fuente too. I don't think Padron has a qualifying model to do that. I think if you're Padron, you can get the stuff, from what I understand.
Right, and where Fuente has tiers, you have to get to certain tiers to get certain products.
Yep.
So you need reps to go in there and upsell everything. You want to get that bigger order. You want that shop to get the bigger order to move over to the next tier. Oh, listen, hey, if you order X amount, you'll get 2 boxes of this Opus X or whatever. So they're constantly there trying to upsell anyway, right? So Padron doesn't have to do that. They don't do it. Don't need to.
Yep.
Okay. All right. Well, guys, I really do appreciate tonight's conversation. We have a few more questions before we wrap up the evening, as we have some of our fun segments coming up and everything. So I thought this was some really great conversation. So these were some of my probably unanswerable
By the way,
questions.
your audience is like booted up at 1:30 in the morning on the East Coast. Have you seen the audience? Yeah, so
it's pretty crazy.
For the audience. Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks for chiming in late, guys. For everyone out there. This has been fantastic. So so if you all are NFT heads, we got a final NFT little question coming up here, but we're going to move on to our charity segment, which I'm always pleased to talk about. This is every week. I always ask our guests to pick a charity, and I didn't this week. I've been kind of taking a little bit more license with this, just because I think in certain situations we've kind of called for it, but. Coop, every time I have you on, I make a point to bring up this charity. You've done some incredible work around this particular issue, and the Sepsis Alliance has been your baby that you've championed for the last couple of years now, and have done some great work. I know that they really appreciate your support. So we want to go ahead and feature them again tonight. Is there, I want to ask you to sum up, you guys can check out sepsisalliance.org. If you guys are interested in learning more about it, I really, really insist anyone who's new to them, I'll go ahead and put it in the chat. Like I said, I know we got some audience members who may not be aware of the great work that you've done with Sepsis Alliance, but is there anything new going on with the organization that you can share, or anything new in this area that you want to kind of talk about in brief?
It's still pretty much the same messaging going forward. The Sepsis Alliance is the organization. They are not they're not looking for a cure for sepsis, right? They're looking to create awareness about sepsis, because it's something, like I said, it's something that affects a lot of people. Namely, if a lot of times when you hear someone die of complications in a hospital after surgery, it's because of sepsis. And what sepsis does is your body has an infection, and it makes its way a lot of times it makes its way in the bloodstream. And once it gets into the bloodstream, it starts spreading to the organs. And when it spreads to the organs, your body goes into a defense mode. And essentially what happens is it goes into such a defense mode that your body short circuits, right? Your body short circuits. And as a result, it's deadly. I've had it, I know, and I ignored the signs. sepsis, because it can happen from any type of infection, right? So the idea with Sepsis Alliance is they educate people and they create awareness for this, for these particular, signs that go out there. Great organization. I'd say they're like a boutique charity organization. They're very small. I know some folks who have contributed to sepsis, have gotten calls from the president of the company, the president of the organization, like thanking them for a donation. Right. In fact, that happened with me as well. That's how I got involved with it as well. Again, if you go to sepsis.org, I think it's a really good cause. I am going to put something out there again tonight. If someone makes $100 donation, okay, to sepsis.org and shows me the proof, I will send them $100 gift certificate to Blue Smoke in Dallas. I will get a gift card from Jay Davis, and I will get you $100 gift card from Jay Davis to match that. So the first person who gets that to me, okay, with $100 donation to sepsis.org, let me know. And if Jay is listening or not, but I will get the gift card from Jay Davis. And we've used this gift cards before, and you can make a phone order or whatever. So Jay didn't even know he was doing this tonight. So yeah, if you make the $100 donation, I will refund your $100 with a gift card to Blue Smoke in Dallas. It's the first person who gets it. So I can't do it for everybody.
Screenshot the donation shot and then
send it to coop@cigar-coop.com. Don't send it anywhere else. Okay, so it's got to get to the cigar-coop.com with that screenshot. It's the first person that gets it. Again, I can't do it for everybody. So I only can do it for the first person that does that.
All right. So we're going to put the email in the chat. So it's coop@cigar-coop.com.
Yep. Screenshot the donation to me in that email. If you don't get the gift card, you've made a very good contribution. Thank you. Very much. But again, I'm going to go for the first person who actually does the $100. If you can't do $100, I encourage you to do $5 or whatever. I mean, it's a good cause.
Everybody makes the difference on this.
And go check out if you're not donating, check out the materials at a limit, at a minimum. I could tell you, this Bear, you and I have talked about it with people we know and stuff like that. It has helped some people. I know that.
Yeah.
I will tell you one other thing, and I think I have not shared this with our audience. I did have another scare in November, by the way. And it turned out I didn't have it, right? But I had some signs, and I went and got checked, and it was enough where they had to hospitalize me for. That was why I missed that show with you guys that time. Mm-hmm. So I think and because I didn't want to scare anyone, and it turned out I didn't have it, which but better safe than sorry with that is what I said, because I went through this once before, yeah, and I didn't have a scare. I wasn't even close to having it, by the way. Just it was just my body had a blood thing that came back weird, so they wanted to check it. So and it was nothing. So
absolutely. Well, it's just a great organization. So wanted to so we'll just go ahead and pivot into a couple of our final segments here. So this is the Everybody Eats segment, sponsored by Pastani Cigars. Yes, if you always make sure that your servant's towel is bigger than your appetite, everybody will always get theirs. Pastani Cigars is more than just great cigars made by cool people. They embody an attitude of gratitude and grit. With Pastania, everybody eats. All right, guys. So this is a question I'm going to pose to the panel here. What is the best experience of eating with other people that you've ever had?
Oh, that wasn't the question I thought we were getting tonight. Okay, good.
What is the best experience that you've had eating with other people? Where was it? What were you eating? Who was it with? All the details. So Ben, you're nodding a little bit. I think you might have an answer. So we'll kick things off with the bull shark here. So what you got?
Yeah. So when I was in college at Mississippi State, a lot of my friends were all from the Gulf Coast. It's something we used to always do back home. We would have a crawfish boil. And we went, and Mississippi State is in the north part of the state, and they don't do nothing like that up there. So during the spring, we have a homecoming, and it's called Super Bulldog Weekend. And that's when the Mississippi State football team does their spring game. But it's also, we have our baseball team is always been one of the top of the nation. So it's a really important series, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday games during that weekend as well. It's like it's like I said, it's a spring homecoming. It's a huge deal. And I think it was my second year there. We had one of our friends that was still living on the coast. He actually drove up an entire truckload of crawfish. So we had a massive crawfish boil at one of our friends' houses. So we spent all day just drinking beer and boiling crawfish and eating crawfish. And then it came time for the Saturday game. And at the time, Mississippi State Stadium is massive now. Almost looks it looks like at least a AAA stadium. It's unbelievable. But at the time, the right field was basically just a grass hill right behind the fence. So we had a bunch of leftover crawfish. So we just filled up this giant ice chest full of crawfish and brought them to the game and sat there on the lawn right behind right field and just started, continuing drinking beers and eating crawfish. Well, in between innings, our outfielders from Mississippi State would come up to the fence, and we would hand them crawfish in between, and they would be eating crawfish in between innings. And it got to the point where we were playing Alabama at the time. The Alabama outfielders, when they would swap, would come in there and say, "Hey, can we eat some crawfish?" We're like, "Yeah, sure." Here we're eating crawfish with the outfield for the University of Alabama and Mississippi State in the middle of that game. It was just so freaking cool, man. It was like a little bit of home. We brought it up there to college, and it was just a great day. And it was
That's
probably
awesome.
like 40 or 50 of us there, and then like 20 of us went to the game. And we're just having a great time with the baseball team, both of them. And it was just so much fun, man. It was a blast. It's like a moment in college that I would never forget. It just was so much fun. Well, that's mine anyway.
Yeah.
Nice.
Just before Ben goes, we have someone's already done the donation. Congratulations to Sean Miles. So
Nice.
thank you very
Awesome,
much,
Sean.
and I will make arrangements. Thank you. Yeah, but I encourage everyone to check out the materials at a minimum.
Sean, thank you so much for being a loyal
Yeah,
audience member.
I will
and
work out, and I'll get that to you, Sean. So just I'll get with Jay tomorrow and put the card in. So, but yeah, you got it. So thank you very much.
This is Sean's second time.
We really appreciate it. Absolutely, very
Sean,
generous.
Thank
Thank
you
you.
so
This
much.
is very-
Unbelievable.
Yep.
Unbelievable. Thank
Yep.
you so much, Sean.
Yep.
Fantastic.
Thank you. Yep. And Jay's got great stuff, so I'm sure you'll work that out.
Oh yeah. Great selection.
Yep.
Have him give you some recs, man, because
Absolutely.
he's got a great humidor.
Yep.
Erron, I'm interested to hear your answer to this question. I want to.
I don't know if it's the best. One of the most memorable was my dad was they did the residency at the Paris Hotel in Vegas. So we went out, they did like 3 months in Vegas. They did the Beatles. They covered the Sgt. Pepper album in Vegas, along with some of their own material, obviously. And our family's good friends with Rachel Ray and her husband. And so after the show, we went to dinner with Rachel Ray and her husband, and we were out at Monami Gobi, right? That overlooks the strip.
Yeah.
And so we're having dinner, and we're just, having a normal shooting the shit, whatever conversation. And lo and behold, they're taping an episode of Cops. Remember, that show Cops, where and when they're taping Cops, it's not like, to get the lighting correct, you've got guys with these big lights that shine down because the camera's got a taste, you got to be able to see it. Well, they were taping this episode of Cops, and this cop, I don't know what the guy did, but man, he leveled this dude like just out of nowhere. They were just like talking, and this cop just comes up and just levels this guy. And I'm sitting there next to Rachel Ray, trying to have a peaceful conversation, and we're watching the cops just go after these guys that were on the Vegas Strip. And so it was one of those bizarre moments. Like, you felt like you were in the show / I'm sitting next to Rachel Ray and her husband, and we're talking, I'm asking her stupid cooking questions probably, and at the same time watching episode of Cops being taped on the strip of Las Vegas, overlooking at night. So that was when my family, we went to dinner with Sting one time. But again, like I've had famous dinners with people like Little Steven and Sting, Rachel,
Really?
guys.
Really?
Like,
Eddie Vedder.
I did. Yeah, Eddie Vedder. I went to dinner with Eddie Vedder in Seattle. I still have, he drew a picture of a martini glass for my wife at dinner. She wasn't there, but I was in Seattle with them at the Warwick Hotel. So the Warwick Hotel is in Seattle, and I've got a picture from Eddie Vedder there too. So, I mean, been very fortunate to have some interesting dinners. But again, with these dinners, you meet famous people. It's like, what I have more in common with you guys than I do these people. So it's like you talk to them for a couple of minutes and it's like, all right, I don't know where to take the conversation. So I'm usually just a fly in the wall, but taping an episode of Cops, that's what just for whatever reason, coming off the PCA and thinking about Vegas. And so that was what came to mind.
Nice.
Bear, this is why you have to have Aaron go last.
I know. Well, I just figured it so there's one time Eddie Vedder, my dad and the Pope were all sitting at this dinner table. I just was waiting for that kind of job. Rachel Ray, man, that's cool. I didn't know you guys were friends with her too. That's cool.
Yeah.
Coop's a Giada guy. I'm definitely a Rachel Ray fan, so we'll talk about this later. But Coop, what's your best experience of eating with other people?
Eating with other people, it's a celebrity moment. We had a chance to eat with Kurt Smith, one of the lead singers of Tears for Fears. We happened to be in the right place at the right time, and there was he was there with a fan group, and my wife and I were at this place called Stingy Lulu's in the East Village. And he was there with a small group of fans, and I had seen him, and I went up to him. He was super nice. He took some pictures, and then he invited us to sit at the table with us to have dinner. So we got a chance to, and it was because he knew, when he saw I was a big fan, he says, "I'm here with some fans and please come join us." Because I saw him, I immediately saw him, and I had to go up to him. And I tried to be respectful. He was so nice to us. There's some pictures of me with Kurt and my wife with Kurt. If you've seen them, it's on Facebook, and I have a beard in the picture. With that, but yeah, I mean, and Tears for Fears is one of my all-time favorite bands, as people know. It's also a very favorite of the Perdomos family. So that's why I'm always talking Tears for Fears with them. But yeah, that was, and I think I pulled a picture up when we were there. When we were at So that has to be without a doubt. Eating with other people was the great. I don't even remember what I had. It wasn't bar food, but it was something like better than bar food. It was like American cuisine. But this is 1997 when this happened. So my wife and I happened to go to Manhattan. We just got away from the kids and got a babysitter that night. And so it has to be that moment because again, to meet someone that intimate of your favorite band at the it's hard to top that.
Nice stuff. Well, that was our Everybody Eats segment, sponsored by Pastani Cigars. If you always make sure that your servant's towel is bigger than your appetite, everybody will always get theirs. Pastani Cigars is more than just great cigars made by cool people. They embody an attitude of gratitude and grit. With Pastania, everybody eats.
We know Mike eats a lot, so and doesn't get fat, so he just gets bigger and bigger, muscle wise.
All right, so our next silent is our asylum moment, which is brought to you by Asylum Cigars. Refuge is more than just a physical place; it can be state of mind. Some of life's greatest reflections can be found in our own personal asylum. Moments like these were made for Asylum Cigars. So light up an asylum and choose your refuge. So I'm going to lead things off with this one because I wanted to share this moment because I think it's one of the best moments that I've had. Now, this one's a little bit different take because I've asked this asylum question to you guys several times in a couple of different fashions and everything. So I wanted to shake things up tonight and talk about it in a little bit of a different perspective. And that, of course, is talking about sharing a cigar with an intimate group of friends. Now, I know that kind of goes against the whole segment in itself, but I think that quiet moments with those dear to us, whether it be family or friends, can be just as important and just as pivotal as qualified kind of as a moment of refuge. And for me, it was this year's at the Great Smoke, and it was on our first night there. Actually, it was our afternoon. And guys, I gotta tell you, man, I was you know, there were some things discussed that day that, you know, were definitely definitely helpful for me personally. But what, you know, I from a cigar perspective, I had just this incredible run of bad smoking experiences. I just got to tell you, I was on one of those streaks that we've all had. It sucks. Can't light up a cigar without it just sucking. It's just like, you know, even some cigars that were tried and true for me, like were plugged or just not enjoyable. I mean, I was on a bad run. I was like on a 1 week run of the shit. And so we're outside at Miami. We'd just gotten into town, and Ben hands me Valakari. He says, "Hey, this is my cigar."
Yep.
And I'm like, "Fuck yeah." I don't even care at this point. I want to light up a cigar, and I actually want to enjoy it for once. And that cigar fucking hit so damn good. It was amazing, Ben. You saved my life that week, bro. And our conversation that day, and just sharing that moment with you guys, that quiet afternoon, the Miami sun hitting us, a great cigar. And for me, that was a beautiful moment of refuge that I absolutely needed. So for me, that was it. So doesn't have to be recent, could be something in the past too. So we'll go ahead and go around the horn here. So Coop, I'll start with you.
Yeah, mine's a recent one. And I think I've talked about this with you guys. I know I sent you guys pictures that day. So I was down in Miami for it was Abe's Abe had done the 500th episode of KMA. He invited me to go down there. I went down there, and I stayed. Actually, I stayed till Monday because I had a business appointment outside Cigars, and I was at the 500 KMA episode, and Rafael Nodal was there, and he's like, and Rafael and I have been friends for a long, long time, and he basically said to me, he said, "What are you doing tomorrow?" And I said, "Well, it's kind of I have some plans at night it was a Sunday after." I said, "I'm free Sunday. I'm all free all afternoon, actually. I'm doing something at night." And he's like, "Hey, why don't you come out to the house?" He lives in a high rise up on the Intracoastal. Actually, it's oceanfront. It's not even Intracoastal. It's a really nice place he's got, right? And it's kind of funny because Bear and I had Raphael on the show a week earlier, and there's a cigar room in the building, like where you could smoke. It's a smoking lounge, literally. They have it for people who live in the building. And the famous thing is when Raphael did the show, he does the show from there so he could smoke. The fire alarm goes off, right?
Several times,
right? So he's like, "Hey, let's go down there." They fixed the problem, right? It wasn't any problem. So we go down there, and he says, "Do you mind if I invite my neighbor to come smoke with us, right?" And I said, "Yeah, no problem." And his neighbor is a guy named Neil, who happens to be a sports agent, right? And we went down there, we smoked, and then of course we went upstairs where Raphael, they cook the burgers on site where he lives. They have like a chef come in. This is like, I'm really interested. They do this every Sunday. The burgers were of course top gourmet. Then we go out on Raphael's balcony as opposed to go back to the cigar room, and Raphael pulls out the Bahiques, genuine Bahiques, right? There's a connection there. And we smoked the Bahiques. They were great, but there was just some great conversation that the three of us had. And Neil and I struck up a friendship that led to Steve Wilkes coming on the show. Who's the coach he's the defensive coordinator for the Panthers. And he also is, he used to coach he's the defensive coach of the 49ers. He used to be the head coach of the Panthers last year. That didn't matter, right? Because when I had the day with him, I didn't know if we were going to totally get Steve or not. But the camaraderie I had and just like connecting with this guy, and the three of us just connecting, all three of us come from like different worlds and everything. It was a really special day. It didn't hurt being at Raphael's place either, looking at the ocean with that. But it was just a great day. And Neil and I have kept in touch since then. So He did deliver Steve Wilkes. I got to say that. So, I mean, I look forward to smoking with him again and introducing you guys to maybe those guys someday. So that was a special day for me.
Nice. Ben.
Actually, mine was started recently. Last week, y'all know this, but my wife and I took our son and one of his best friends down to Orlando to go to Walt Disney World and Universal Orlando. Now, I'm not the biggest theme park person. I mean, they're cool for the first couple of hours, I guess.
And then that's
But
it. Yeah.
yeah, but it's not for me. I get my joy out of watching my son just having a blast. That's what I care about. But like we went at Walt Disney World for 5 straight days, and on my pedometer on my phone, I had walked 51 miles while I was
Jesus.
at Walt Disney World. Yeah.
Wow.
So I can't stand it, right? My wife knows this, and she knows usually what I do is I'll take a day because it's so hot. We go down there in the summer that they'll go to one of the water parks for a day. So at that time, I don't care about the water park. Every time if I go to a water park, I just sit in the lazy river and drink beer the whole time and just float. That's what I do. But what I do is I need sanctuary, right? I need a respite of some kind. So I usually go to a cigar shop. That's what I'll do the whole day.
You need your moment of refuge.
Yeah.
That's what I need. I need that moment. So usually what I do is I go to Corona and Sand Lake because it's right outside. Basically, it's a mile and a half from Universal Orlando. But this time I was like, no, you know what? I need to go see the guys a Cigar Hustler. So, which is it's almost an hour north of there, Deltona, Florida.
Yep.
But I really wanted to go by there because we love those guys. I mean, they're awesome to us too. And one of my favorite cigars at the trade show was a Postani, Connecticut. So I text Mike. I said, dude, I'm heading down your way. Probably the middle of the week, one of the days, I won't be coming up there. I said, so I want a box of the Connecticut's. I love it. I got to have a box. So Wednesday finally came and I drove up there and I went to Wawa's and got a sub on the way. And it was like perfect. Got there, man. Everybody was great. And our friend Hector Alfonso was there from Espinosa. Just coincidence.
Yeah, I was wondering if that was arranged or not. So it was
No, it
coincidence.
was not a. We had no idea. He had no idea I was even in Florida, and I had no idea he was there. It was just destiny. It was fate. It just happened. You know, we went in there and we had a great time. Everybody was amazing. We actually went down to the studio for their the Cigar Hustler podcast where we did a show for their Patreon stream. It was a lot of fun, man. It was amazing. I got a tour of their new private lounge, which was one of the baddest ass private lounges I've ever seen. It is stunning. If you live anywhere in the general facility of Cigar Hustler, if you're a cigar smoker, get a membership because it is freaking awesome. And it's a great price for their membership there too. But it was just nice to get a break from all of that, rest my back and legs, and just go and chill with the guys and have some really good cigars, a good conversation, just hang out for a while until it was dinner time and I drove back to have dinner with the family. It was just perfect. It was like the best time to get away from all the people and the theme park and the rides and all that shit and go have, that moment with the guys at Cigar Hustler was perfect. It was fantastic. Cannot wait to go back next time.
Yeah, our vacation house that we used to rent every year was only a mile away from there. It was in DeBarry. And
Yes.
Fortunately, the house got sold. But I would do that every year. We would go there as I would go over to Hustler. And for the same reason, kind of escape because my whole family would be at the house and I'd get like an afternoon. And they roll out the red carpet. They are so generous. And a couple times I've gotten there even before Mike's gotten there. His staff is amazing, by the way. They have the regular lounge is great. The humidor has got something great. I think the humidor is great, and they're just the customer service is second to none. And then Mike's just so generous. So I miss that we don't have that house down there to use anymore. And it's hard to find another house of the same quality to rent near there, unfortunately.
Yes.
So yeah, but I agree. If you haven't gotten a cigar hustle, you got to get there.
So a lesson learned from the last question. So Aaron's going last. So Aaron, tell us about the time that you, Steven Tyler, the president, and Jay-Z were all smoking cigars together, and it was just a great moment of refuge for you.
I'm gonna actually, we've talked about different times. So I'll mix it up a little bit in a sense, and it's not one time, but it kind of echoes a little bit about what you talked about, Bear. Not to get too into the weeds, but look, we talk all the time about hanging together, whether it was Great Smoke or PCA or Miami, but I truly go on those trips and relish the times that we get to hang out as a group, like on the patios, and just we know we don't even go out to there. We just like, let's bring food back so we can all hang out.
Yeah.
So it's not like there's one specific moment per se, but for me, wherever we go, it's always warm. So we're outside, which is nice. So we get to sit out and we find we always have a patio that we can smoke at, but it's always good conversation. And it's just good to see you guys. And it's a time where I get to spend with, like, I've got friends that smoke cigars, and that's fine, but they'll have like one, and they like cigars, but they're not really cigar smokers. And it's always great for me to spend time with you guys and go get away from the family and just be able to decompress, but just, have conversations. We sprayed all fields, obviously, but whether it's Vegas or Miami or, wherever the next place may be, I go there to hang out with you guys, not to go to the event or the PCA. It's the after hours stuff that, I enjoy the most. And so that's what I always look back with, the fond memories of when we get away and enjoy a few 10, 15 cigars. I smoke 10 or 15 coops, about one and a half.
Yeah.
Nice. All right, guys. Well, this is going to wrap up our show tonight. We have our last question of the evening. Really, again, just want to shout out the audience for coming in late, hanging with us for the last hour and a half or so, really coming in. So thank you for the support. Go back and watch the first couple hours of the show too, because we've been on for a while. We have some great discussion points. I was really, really excited about the show, and you guys didn't disappoint, obviously, with some answers to your questions and everything. So we're going to bring back a topic that came up earlier with tonight's question for our curveball segment. And our curveball segment is always brought to you by Dunbar Tobacco and Trust. Yeah, fastballs or curveballs, it doesn't matter since the company's inception. Yes, sir. Steve Saka has been knocking them out of the park. 8 consecutive years to the consensus top 3. Congratulations to our good friend, Mr. Steve Saka. Will he make it 9, Coop? Will he make it 9?
He will.
Your prediction.
So, Saka Khan wins it this year. Papa Saka wins it this year.
Papa Saka wins it this year. That's going to be his official prediction on this officially unofficial half Appalachian Mountain Cigar Fest podcast episode. So here it is, guys. Money aside, if money was of no consequence to you, would you outbid some of the top bids that we've seen for either the LFD or Anarchy NFTs for your own personal consumption? If money was no object, would you do it?
Of course. Yeah.
Why?
Why? Because it's two brands I absolutely love. And if money's no object, I would just bid to get this limited LFD and Tattoo Hay that only I could smoke. Why would I not do that? I would do that all damn day.
Okay.
Of course.
There's a caveat to this because I think the answers are going to be pretty consistent across the board, but I might be surprised. Aaron.
I mean, if I got, sure, why not?
Mister, I'll buy the box.
Yeah, if they have boxes and NFTs, I will do that. I would say, okay, I'll be a little. I'm going to say no, only because I don't even know what to do with it. Like or maybe I'd say yes, donate it to charity. Well, sure, I can smoke it, but I don't even. the whole NFT concept to me, I don't understand it. I mean,
You don't have to smoke the cigars to get the cigars.
Yeah, good point. So I'll say yes, just for the free for the cigars that I just bought, I suppose. But yes, I guess so. If I get to smoke unique cigars, then why not? If I got endless amounts of dough, I got to blow it on something. So blow it on some NFTs that I don't understand.
So Aaron's answer is going to be no. I'm answering for you on my follow-up here. Aaron, your answer is going to be no on the follow-up. You'll see why in a second. Coop, I want to get your answer.
No.
Straight up.
Straight up, no. And it's because there's more cigars I'd rather smoke than those. And I only have so much space in my house. I know I'm getting a humidor with each of those, right? But I'm like, no, there's other things I'd rather have the space for. That I'm gonna spend the money on. It's just like I said, those cigars are nice, and I there's other cigars that I would just buy as much as I could with my money before those cigars.
If you had infinite NFT money, you have infinite money to build an entire house that's a humidor.
I don't want to build. Yeah, I guess but I'm assuming I have that already. There's just other cigars I'm gonna, it's at some point I don't need to consume those all the time. I'd rather buy the La Aurora Cienananos Maduros, Davidoff Oro Blancos I'd buy. I'm not buying that. I'm just gonna. I don't need the NFT. I'll just find the means to get it. There's Fuente Opus X's. I keep buying. I get that Opus 25 humidor, things like that. I'd rather get use the space for that as opposed to these. I'm just nothing personal. They're good cigars, but they're not the cigars that are at the top of my list.
All right. So the answer for Coop on the follow-up is going to be no, because he said no to the first one. Aaron was hesitant, so I'm going to answer for you. It's no. Ben, this is questions for you alone. Would you buy multiples?
What do you mean? What about multiples?
Would you buy multiple? Multiple NFTs. 2 LFDs, 2 anarchies, 3, 4, doesn't matter, right? There's 7 anarchies. And how many LFDs, Coop?
The LFD had 7. There was 6. There was 7 on both, but Abe got one of the NFTs, so there was 6 made available to everybody else.
No, why would I need more than one of each?
I don't know. Corner of the market.
Because then you have instead of getting 15 boxes a quarter, you'll get 30 boxes a quarter.
I don't need 30. Because I'm
not.
That's
why I was going.
But then to quote Coop, you get several cool tchotchkes, associated with it.
That is one. Okay, yeah, I know.
So New York.
Oh my God, tchotchke.
Tchotchke is a New York word. Absolutely.
Oh my God.
No, I don't
fucking
need
$5,000 DuPont relighter reduced to a fucking tchotchke. Yeah. Oh my God. Oh
Jesus Christ.
Oh
it's
God.
Like the movie Waiting. You don't have enough flair. You need more tchotchke.
Yeah.
But no, I only need one because I'm not going to exclusively just smoke that. If it's the only cigar I can have, then fuck it, yeah, why not? I'll probably buy 3. But I would assume in our imaginary worlds that I'm not limited to that one cigar. So, but it's rare that I smoke the same cigar on the same day, let alone even the next day. Shit. Sometimes not even in the same week. Sometimes it's. The whole week's totally different. So no, it probably one's enough for me. Okay. One of each.
I'm not going to let you get away with this, Ben, because I'm a huge movie guru. So Tchotchkes is the name of the restaurant in Office Space with Pieces of Flair, not Waiting. Both are great movies, though.
Oh, it's Office Space. That's right.
So
yes.
Not going to let you get away with it, but
now, Bear, can I just caveat my answer on one thing?
Sure.
If it wasn't for my personal consumption and I had an ability to sell these.
No, that wasn't the question.
I know that wasn't a question. That wasn't a question. I'm just saying.
Well, this is part of the curveball. So here's the last question as part of the curveball segment for Steve Saka's Dunbarton Tobacco Trust curveball segment. So here we go. You get to commission a company that produces an NFT just for you. And that means
knows what my answer is.
And it could be Tatuaje, it could be LFD, or it could be someone else. Who's the company? Ben?
Fuente Opus X.
Okay.
I'm going Padron.
Okay.
Why would I do that and not just spend the money on the company?
You know what?
Would you just answer the damn question?
Fucking A, just answer the question.
And I'll throw in a freebie for you, Coop. They'll fucking make any tchotchke you want to.
If I could get as part of it, the Perdomo merchandise wall, I'll take Perdomo. Like have that wall in my house, a merchandising wall as part of that NFT that I could just fill up. That is amazing. I love that merchandising. I love their display cabinets.
Nice.
And I'd fill it up from anything from 20th to 30th to lot 23s. So, I mean, I'd be very happy.
Nice.
But Nick would have to also make me some ESVs. That's part of that.
Hey,
that would be part of the deal. That would be part of the deal.
Your NFT. Your NFT.
Yeah, that NFT. Yeah. So I want those ESVs back. You're gonna have to do those for me, Nick. So
find the goddamn tobacco, Nick. It's on you. All right. Cool. All right, cool stuff, guys. Thank you so much for being a part of this fantastic conversation. Love having you guys on. Again, thanks again to our audience who really showed up late in the late hours of the night and in early hours of the morning here. This is fantastic. I can't believe what an audience we had that drove in. This is great. Special thanks shout out to Sean Miles.
Sean Miles, yep. I will get that card to you. I don't think I think Jay left the chat already by the time that happened, but I will get with him. Yes.
So Jay Davis for being a part of that as well. Coop, thank you so much for your generosity. Check out Sepsis Alliance, sepsis.org. Like if you feel drawn to donate, it doesn't matter, guys. $5.
Yeah, $5, please.
Goes a long way with these people. It's a smaller charity that does incredible work for something that does not get a lot of attention, does not get a lot talked about. And it's something near and dear to our heart, just because of what Coop went through a couple years ago. And it was education like this and awareness of that his doctors pulled him through. And
absolutely.
And we're grateful for them, and we're grateful for the work and education and awareness that Sepsis Alliance brings to everybody. So check it out, sepsis.org, and please consider donating to that fantastic organization. For everyone, I really appreciate all those likes, shares, comments. Keep them coming. If you are a fan of the show or not new to the show, you can check out our YouTube channel. ELOSOFUMAR. You can hit that subscribe button. That'll be fantastic. You could also check out we broadcast live from Facebook every Sunday night, 9:30 Central, 10:30 Eastern. We go to the wee hours in the morning or evening, pretty much every single time. Got some great guests coming up. We're going to be taking next week off with the Labor Day weekend and everything. But after that, we've got some amazing guests lined up for you. It's going to be fantastic. I'm really looking forward to it. Some great conversations ahead. Some great conversations tonight, guys. Thank you so much. If you are listening to us later on podcast, wherever you happen to listen to podcasts, whether that be on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Play, Podbean, or wherever you listen to podcasts, do so again. Hit the download, subscribe, and review buttons. If you already are a subscriber, do me a favor, hit unsubscribe, but don't forget to hit resubscribe because that actually really helps my numbers and allows me to get great guests like these three gentlemen whenever I ask and whenever I want. So for everyone out there, he's Will Cooper, he's Erron Nielsen, and he is Ben Lee. I'm Bear Duplessis, live from the Alec Bradley Lone Star Studio of Azle, Texas. This was our 262nd take. Holy shit. Done this 262 times. Can't believe it. Guess what, everybody? See you next time.